Welcome back, everybody, to On the Edge of Shadow. I am Blackthorn, your narrator here. Tonight's event on the stage, as the curtain opens, is a bleak, almost, not quite cold enough to be a frosty autumn morning in Arum's western plains. We see that chilling wind move the hip tall grass in like a tide fashion. The sky is gray, almost as if it wants to rain, but it can't bring itself to do so. It's been blindly almost 150 cycles since the events of the Reaper King. And with this, we enter part 2 of the Reaper Saga. The stage curtains open to reveal an encampment, almost a festival of nations when it comes to species, cultures, and people's garbs, that and the like. We will see Arborians, fair folk, mortal tribesmen of the freckled Nemersian fashion, and the newcomers, the squat, bearded folk with their broad, silvery, and dark beards, braided into their long locks to keep their beards off of their chests and out of the way of the upcoming battle. On this particular morning, uh, troops are moving hither and thither, uh, almost barely dealing with the tension of the last few nights worth of combat, and then possibly the struggle to within the next couple of days. We look across this valley, across the river Tarandine, and we see the Atlantean host. We have a pair of newcomers, fair folk in appearance. Uh, the first to enter the encampment is significantly younger than his fellow. Shihan, would you describe your character for us as you enter the midst of this encampment?
Shihan's look is, well, even for a fair folk, a bit wild. The clothing he's wearing, the cloak has is a fine leather that has this tattered along the edges of a kind that just doesn't quite come to mind what kind of animal it might be. It's a very light tan, just a bit darker than what you would think of doe skin. It hangs from his shoulders and doesn't really wrap around him so much as just sort of covers his back, almost like you would expect, like a cape, if you will. Underneath that, he does have a more standard sort of half cloak that comes down just above his knees to ward off the chill. That's a basic homespun look. Um, if it is dyed, it is dyed a very dark brown, or it may be the natural color of whatever it was woven from. Underneath that, you do see the glint picking through of the black ebon of an ebon coat of plates over basic woodland garb that you would expect any hunter to wear. He carries at his side a bow of ash across his back. Peeking out from under that half cloak is um, the heel of a blade, and his hip is a quiver of arrows, of which about 9 of them have very fetching fletching that draws the eye compared to the more the drabber fletching of the more traditional arrows he has. And um, in his eyes is the look of nostalgia, seeing the the British folk. You almost see a look of yearning in those eyes, as his hand almost, without thinking, reaches out and brushes through some of this hip high grass as he feels the kernels there on the top ripe for the picking. And he thinks of an old friend. And only for a moment, though, does that look of nostalgia and longing come across his face. And above, of course, those eyes, those thoughtful eyes, and that youthful face, are the typical antler type horns of the fair folk, but these are dark, stout. I'm seeming not stained black, but as if they had grown from the roots as such. Um, and his hair, though, is everything else about him is quite typical of what you would see of a fair folk. The darker hair, the golden colored skin, but those horns and those eyes just they draw one's attention and make one wonder, where's this one been?
And with that, we see a young fairfolk with a lot of baggage being escorted into the camp. You hear the sounds of drums and chanting. As you pass that gate, there is an older Arborian there. Obviously, he's maybe for Shihan specifically, he may be a tad bit older, but he just gives you a polite and knowing nod. You pass through this gate to see a bonfire lit, kind of lighting up that mid-evening um, gloom, and we see a number of Nemersian women who have painted themselves almost kind of a gray, green, dusky kind of like a body paste of some kind of body paint. You immediately recognize these women as priestesses of Mortlu. She is the goddess, the mortal goddess associated with sorcery, cleverness, and secrets. Um, you go past them, and you feel a presence upon you immediately. Some bit of sorcery and a light, a pale green rune appears around about breastbone um, level with you. Um, as you feel that sorcery kind of wash over you, it's not invasive or in any way, but um, your what little training that you have had in the occult, you've just inherited a rune, uh, being in the same place as these priestesses, as uh, you realize they're putting together a circle magic ritual. They're warding everyone within the camp and the soldiers moving through and out of it with a boon to protect them. Um, should Shihan wish to like muscle through it and not accept such a thing, he may, as he wishes. But the rune, you notice there's that same pale green rune floating just above the sternum on everybody in this camp.
He'll just look at it. I'll make a quick roll here for him. Cunning, just as an idea. Um, he makes the decision that he's going to go ahead and fit in and accept this rune. Doesn't seem to be harming anyone else, does it?
No.
Okay, then he'll
It's a protective ward, is what it is.
he'll
Clearly,
he'll
unseelie in nature, but yes, it is a protective rune.
He's familiar with the unseelie in their ways. He'll mutter a thanks in the bit of smattering of travel to mercy that he knows as he walks by these women, and go about his way. Get away from there as fast as possible.
Some dozen paces behind you, lingering at the gate, we see a another fair folk. Ukian, would you describe your character for us, please?
You see a warrior. You can tell by the garb and the armor that he bears, the stark orange emblazoned wooden breastplate hauberk that adorns his chest. It stands out and it depicts a symbol of an oak of some kind. Another thing that immediately sticks out is the brilliant white, tinged green horns and the fair features of a fair folk wrapped by the somber embrace of unseelie garments. You see, he stands at about 5'3", a subtle fierceness beneath the exterior of his ashen dress. He is thin, almost bony, but still enough might to him, enough prowess. He is not withered or ragged at all. He has dusty charcoal hair, shining, curious golden eyes, and those heavy antlers. He is leaning upon a some sort of staff, it looks like. Its head is wrapped in some sort of ornamentation. It's a very fine staff. It's carved of redwood and it's quite large and thick, well oiled, well kept. The head, it's some sort of wrapping and it seems to depict some sort of religious iconography of some significance. It looks like a weapon. It seems to be carried like it. He's wrapped in this heavy linen cloak of unseelie design and fashion. He looks around this environment. The place is bustling with all these strange mortals, and he seems to not be paying attention much to them. He seems to be watching the nearby trees, looking at the leaves.
Beautifully said. As you move into this encampment yourself, uh, again, that pale green rune appears on you, and you've likely cast the same rune upon yourself and your fellows in uh, previous engagements. There's no harm to be had from here, but it does strike you as quite brilliant that these mortal priestesses um, of this goddess of sorcery and cleverness here, they're you have to admit they're quite remarkable in their ritual craft. They've actually managed to pull such a thing off with their short seasonal lives. Uh, you pass by, there are uh, a few more Fey folk milling about, and they regard you. However, they are more seely wit of in fashion. They are it is more common in this place. They give
I
you the
look on longingly towards that, like taking note of of those garments, of that style, and I reminisce and nostalgia fills me as I think of home.
they give you the respect that you deserve as kinsmen, but they are again weary of you. One of them kind of points with his chin down the pathway where the cloaked youth had gone. Uh, Shihan, you seem to be herded by some of your elders towards the center pavilion, and you've you come to know, both of you come to know along the way that the High King, Orncath, is in the encampment. He has actually left his fortress at Denilith. Strangely enough, the High King is out of his lands, and he is aiding the others of the West in this battle with the Atlantean scourge.
Okay. He'll as they glance at him, he'll expecting the looks of the symbols that they do to ward off bad luck and such because of his horns. He'll be looking, expecting that kind of thing. Is he seeing that as well?
Well, some of them more superstitious. A lot of the military, the soldiers, and the priesthood.
Yes.
Perhaps not. Some of them are common folk, maybe.
Okay, so he'll notice that and sort of sneer, but he'll give the respect due his elders as he sees them. And, he'll nod and he'll exchange very brief pleasantries, and as they direct him toward the center of the camp, he'll head that way. He's very road weary though, and would very much like to sit down and just have something cool to drink and possibly whatever they're serving for a meal at the moment. But duty does call. So
I forgot, is Shihan a vegetarian, or is he
oh
omnivore?
no, he's omnivore.
Oh, he's omnivore.
Very much so. Very practical omnivore.
Okay. Quite a few fair folk are vegetarian, but again, that makes him unique. Ukion, you're kind of afforded much the same treatment. The common people are very leery of you, like the camp followers and such. Less so the Fae, more so the mortals.
Yeah, I look at their glances and they're staring, and I let it wash over me. Continue to keep my calm demeanor. I don't shy away from their glares or their glances, but I do respect their space. I am a traveler wandering through this place, this war-torn land, and I need to find what I need to find. But I do try and find a place in this gathering, in this community, or try to linger near those who perhaps I could blend in with, as I'm conscious of the differences between the various factions here. So I will continue to wander through and look for anyone whom I find, whom I would wish to associate with, and get some news and inquire as to the recent happenings in this part of the land.
As you both move, not together, but move through this encampment, you hear the low gutturals of mammoths, actually, and their the calls, the commands of their keepers. Shihan, you don't almost get stepped on, but you do realize that you are absolutely in the way until you hear that guttural, and the Arborian keeper leading this thing, he just chuckles and he goes, "She won't step on you. You'll be all right."
I'm used to large companions. As he steps away.
Well done.
I want to travel with an ogre. So
he looks up at his shaggy trunked companion. He just pats her on the leg, and away they go. You both end up at this main pavilion, probably unconsciously standing right next to each other before you go inside. Have a moment to yourself of, all right.
Yeah, indeed. And another curiosity, is Shihan dressed in a style that would be that would potentially be unseelie
His garb is pretty
style?
Yeah, garbage.
grisly.
Yeah,
He's
it's-
wearing a skin almost as a scarf and a
Hmm.
cape.
Yeah, if you that cape that he's wearing over his half cloak, yeah. Once you get a good look at it, you realize it is definitely skin, not from.
It's
It's
a
not a hide.
person's
Yes.
skin.
And the black horns. I mean, those are pretty universally considered to be bad luck. So, if this person is not unseelie, he's at least, well, a person that has definitely graced the unseelie path a time or two.
Hmm. So I move up and just happen to linger around. I see Shihan obviously stand out among the others, most definitely so, and I feel intrigued and a little bit hesitant, no doubt, but I don't seem to. His features don't seem to bother me. Perhaps not yet, or perhaps I'm just ignorant of his true nature. But I linger towards him, and I happen to stand by him as we're watching the events unfold in the pavilion, and I just say out loud, to no one in particular, but I guess to I just look over towards Shihan. How tall are you, Shihan?
He's about 5'5".
Okay, so yeah, I look up. I look up to you slightly. I'm just 2 inches shorter. I turn and look at you, kinsman. What goes on here?
Shion raises his eye and looks over at you and says, "I've not been called that in quite some time, but
No,
hope the road treats you well on your way here. I'm known as Shion, the Red Blade."
Shihan of the Red Blade.
Yes.
I'm Ukin of Tunawail.
So
It is good to meet somebody of small, somber alignment here in this place. This Sealy gathering, it seems.
I've become unused to our kind's normal day-to-day activities. I do in most things the bidding of the Pike Lord these days.
The Pike Lord. I've heard of him, though I know not familiar. He's some sort of grand champion, is he not?
He is a lord of the Uncivil courts. Yes,
Yes.
not the grandest lord of the courts, but one who has his eyes set higher.
Yes, ever since the Autumn King's slaying.
Yes.
Mm.
Shihan breathes deep when you say that, and sort of lets out almost like he's holding back, almost like a yell at that, almost like an enraged bellow.
Mm.
He seems to pull it down and says, "Yes, since that has occurred, since the one whose name should not cross my lips did that. How he survived, I have no idea."
Kinsman, pray tell, you also seek the Undying One. I look a little bit earnest.
He looks back and says, "When I find him, he'll lose that moniker."
And I nod and I give a slight smile. And I reach over my hand. It's sort of a sort of a bony hand, and a gauntlet, and an arm brace sticks out from the black cloak, in a gesture to shake your hand or shake your arm, as is the greeting, the customary greeting.
Shihan will grasp your forearm in the warrior's salute, as they say.
Yes.
He said, "Yes." He says, "Well met, well met, well met.
Well met.
We may have a goal the same coming here, to find that one, that foul being that." And he growls low under his voice, under his breath.
A corrupter of the cycle of nature itself. I felt it hundreds of cycles ago now, but we have been hunting him. Those of myself and my order. We serve the autumn. We serve the court.
I caught a glimpse of him at one point, well, a few cycles back.
You've glimpsed him, truly.
There was a battle, and he was astride a horse. And before my arrow found his heart, he fled. Unfortunately, I lost him at some point, but I did believe he went south at that point.
This is grand news. Arthius has seemed to have blessed my trail, my hunt. Well met, Shihan of the Red Blade. I would seek to join you in your quarry against this one.
He looks you up and down, notices the accoutrement of a warrior, and says, I could definitely use another blade by my side. Are you swift in the saddle? Or at least swift on your feet?
Far better on my feet, but I can ride.
Well, this new thing that the Atlanteans have brought, these beasts of burden that they strap leather to their backs and then stride upon, it is.
They are mighty and grand, but they cannot move with any dexterity or swiftness, especially through the trees or through the hovels or swamps where no doubt this one skulks and hides to this day.
I think so. I think, yes, on foot we best. So
yes. We're running out of time, kinsman.
We are.
Autumn stagnates and lingers. I hear
tell the High King is in there.
The High King? You look surprised.
Do you know him?
At this moment in time, the pavilion's front flap opens, and one of the king's arch bards, Orumtun, actually comes out for a brief breath of fresh air, and he's a tad bit of a celebrity amongst anyone who likes song, dance, and anything like that, and a good story of poetry. And he kind of like lets the tent flap drop behind him, and he's not wearing his armor, but a fey iron broadsword is belted to his left hip. But he rubs his face, and he says, "Oh, this is going to be a right mess for us." And he lets his gaze settle on the both of you, and he fixes you both with a winning smile. Newcomers, cousins.
Shihan looks up and down and says, newcomers, and some call me cousin, yes.
Does this person look lordly? Like, this person is of high nobility or station, correct?
Oh yeah, he is the cousin to the king.
Yeah. So I do a bit of a bow, and tap my staff twice, in recognition of his station, and I stand up to my full posture, and I quietly respect his words.
He sucks in another breath of that almost chilly autumn breeze. He goes, "Well, there is a lull in the conversation. Come in when you're able." And he goes back inside.
Shihan will look over at Okion and say, "After you."
I'll give you a raised eyebrow, a bit of a smile creeps on his face before it then withers away, and I walk in.
One thing I will have for you in this brief transition of scenes, when Ukion reach out to take the canvas aside, you steal a glance in whichever direction that you wish here, and you see an oak tree on a distant hill. Its leaves have changed with the season. Almost like my river gif here, that brilliant fiery red, orange, and yellow. It itself almost looks like an enormous torch. but
I pause for a second. I look at it just for an instant. I feel pulled towards it, but my duties call me inside. But I am enamored by that image.
that the spirit of that tree reaches out to you. I will make you roll for it because it is palpable. You can taste
Sure.
it. This agony that this tree is in. Imagine this one being a tree's purpose is to grow, to bear leaves, to bear fruit. And when the changing of the season happens, these leaves change and they let go of their leaves to repeat the cycle.
Mm.
This one oak screams in your mind a blood curdling, agonizing scream that she cannot drop her leaves. Imagine for a moment, almost as if, and Shihan, I'll actually make you roll for this. Make me a sight test, because it's not you that's being attacked with this. Almost imagine almost a lover trying to reach out for you for help,
Yeah.
begging you to take her leaves away. And just in those moments, and with that, if Shihan feels this almost as palpably as well, a female autumn spirit of some kind screams in your mind for aid. Something pulls at your heartstrings.
Shihan looks around for his wife for a moment, almost with a fearful look in his eyes. And when she's not there, he calms down a bit.
My whole body tenses as my shoulders shake and I almost crumble in upon myself. The cloak, the weathered black gray linen cloak around me seems to pull me down below the earth itself as I kind of stumble and falter at the pavilion tent flap, just leaning on the staff that I have, almost overwhelmed by this sensation, this agonizing cry for help, for aid, this scream of something that has been tortured by a burden for far too long, something that I can, something that I intimately understand. And that takes me a second. I linger at and Shihan notices as well, and I linger at the tent flap for a good 4 to 5 seconds, still and almost trembling, shaking, before there's a sharp inhale and an exhale, and the cold breath exhales out of my mouth as I attempt to steel myself, but I look as if I've been shot by an arrow.
Shihan, there for a moment, notices this.
As you come up, I turn and look at you with my eyes are quite wide and fierce. Did you hear that? And I look over towards the tree.
I heard it. It wasn't my wife, though, so. But I did feel the anguish, yes.
I nod. I look at you and almost relief comes over me as you also are able to relate to that. I give you. I then turn to you. I give you a knowing nod of respect. You being, in my mind, you being somebody who is well attuned to these things, even though you are a ruby youth. I steal my gaze and open the tent flap. I open it for you, in fact, and nod for you to come inside.
Shihan feels quite honored that an elder of his people is to him, is motioning him through first, and he'll go through and look around and sort of have this look of importance on his face for just a moment until he sees where he's at, and he'll step aside and let you come in.
I walk inside with a grimace and a grim demeanor.
At the octagonal table, the fair folk High King, known as Orncath, sits not at his throne, which is on a temporary dais across the room. He's actually sitting in kind of a rougher, like, camp chair, which is kind of odd because him and his opulence, he's not wearing his armor, but clearly everything on him is a work of art and a masterpiece. His sword is hanging from like one of the antlers that comes off of his throne from across the way. So he's only armed with a short sword on his hip. One of his archwardens to his left, named Lumafarn, is he's the one speaking right now, and you walk in on the conversation of, well, what we know here, the trolls have encamped across the river, and we have no knowledge as of this moment if the trolls are working with the Atlanteans. The Atlanteans have broken off. At this moment in time, our baggage train is well guarded and well kept, and as far as, and his eyes kind of 1,000-yard stare off, I truly hope that the cave nymphs haven't left us. It's when the king of the bearded folk chimes in and he says, well, what we do know of the Umbriads is they've taken a keep in the mountains that used to belong to a great ancestor of mine, and I was given a letter asking if I wanted it back. The famous reputation and infamy of the eccentricness of Umbriads, and he kind of gets this look of on his face. It has preceded them. I thought it was a lie. And he smiles and says, I'm glad they are on our side. And he just kind of covers his face and looks down as one of his companions, an Arborian, just smirks, puts his hand on his shoulder pauldron there. And he goes, I'm glad they are on our side too, my friend. But we haven't had need or use of them yet. That rear flank is impregnable with a wall of ebon. And that's when Oremtun, the bard, looks up from his plate. He's actually silently eating at the table on the opposite hand of the king there. He's got a plate of what looks to be like a joint of venison, and eating at the war table with this big regional map on it. He's very, very gingerly pulling bits and pieces of bread off, trying not to be disturbing to his companions here. He looks at you two from across the way, and he goes, Liege, we have 2 young warriors that have arrived. And the king looks up, looks to you both, nods. Come on in, lads. Grab a seat.
Shihan will do so without saying a word. He's not the most comfortable among the highborn, but he'll sit down and be, sort of the idea of, knuckling his forehead at the king as he sits.
I also nod and move towards the seat. taking my seat next to Shihan, glancing over at this war council, at these grand men and women of war here.
Is at this moment in time when Shion actually takes a seat. Yeah. Do you actually sit in a chair like off to the side, or do you actually pull up a chair at the table?
Oh, he'll sit off the side.
Oh, okay, okay.
He
I
assumes the
wanted to.
king maybe can sit over there.
Oh,
So
okay, okay. I wanted to see what level of bombast we were looking at for in young Shihan here, but you sit down and like naturally where your gaze would settle ahead of you, you are staring directly at a face that you've not seen in a very long time. The mortal woman known as Mirai, known as the Great Babushka now for her people, someone that one of your first pacts as an unseelie was actually made with her family. And when she sees you, you almost it stops about here. There's like a cry, almost a cry of elation there, but she just puts her hand up and she smiles.
Mhm.
And then she
Shihan will-
turns her gaze, a queen in her own right. Go
Okay.
back to the war council.
He'll nod to her and sort of smile and look over at Ukian and sort of one of these moments where you can tell how young Shion actually is comparatively. He'll
Hmm.
nudge him. I know her. It's Mirai.
I look shocked. Like I kind of jump up when you nudge me, when you nudge my side. I
Yep.
kind of I look a bit startled, and I kind of reflexively glare at you at that. Before then that disappears, and I look over towards this strange woman, uh, this mortal, I think, and I study her, and I think I think Shihan is uh, some sort of powerful wizard. So I think this is perhaps some sort of other consort of his, or some other sort of powerful sorcerer. And so I study her and observe her.
She, contrasting with the last time that Shihan saw her in the flesh, um, the first battle of the Tarandine, you met Mira, her daughter, who is roughly in her late 20s right now.
Mhm.
And she this scene floods back to you, and just the euphoria of that vengeance comes to you, and you feed on it. The image of Mira quite literally taking the front of some poor Atlantean trooper's face off with a shield stroke, and one of your arrows landing in the breastplate of Myos, the entity known as Va Myos. It's the last time you'd seen him.
Mhm.
And now a feeling of jealousy pops up in your head. That bastard still has one of my arrows. Because you didn't recover that one.
No, I did not. So yes.
So wait, as an aside, not to break immersion here, that was the 6th arrow. So you're down to 5 now of 9?
I think that was the 6th. I think I was the 7th arrow.
Was it? So you only have 6 left.
So I have 6 left, yes.
Because I know you lost at least 2 in Reaper King.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
So, all right. Back to it. Now, Mirai, as an Immersian, there is not a drop of Fey blood in her bloodline whatsoever. She should have died of old age cycles and cycles ago. Now, Nemersians, they're life expectancy is about 55 to 65 cycles. What you see right now is somewhere just past 150 cycles, and for whatever sorcery is involved here, there is not an ounce of decrepency in there. Her hair is, instead of the Nemercian like coal green black that it should be, it is kind of a stark silver, wavy almost in the babushka fashion, but it's all brought back into one big ponytail. And she sits there in a goblin forged bronze hauberk there with a similar shield to Mira's oval shield, and a almost an impossibly broad, uh, also of goblin make, bronze broadsword there, and she just sits there comfortably. For whatever reason, you're looking at her, Shihan. You just see that armor should be crushing this old woman, but she is as live and corded. I mean, ancient and creased face and lines, that is, but she's as much of a spring chicken as she was ages ago when you saw her for, and it just stuns you, which might linger to whatever black magic that pact you made with her initially possibly is prolonging her life, or could this possibly be one of the tragedies of autumn not ending? Some things should die at the end of the season when things don't. Maybe some happiness or terror in this bittersweet moment here. The war council drills on as the kings and their captains dole out orders, delegating that many of the lords and ladies are dismissed. Much of this meeting does not apply to you two specifically, but when things are all said and done, the Archwarden, Lumifarn, and Mirai both stand, and they come to stand before both of you. And Mirai just smiles. He goes, "Good evening, Auron."
He stands. And
I stand as well.
He'll bow over her hand and kiss the back of it, and he'll smile up at her and say, "Mirai, it has been a long time, and I was not expecting to see your face again. I saw your daughter recently. She was well when I saw her."
She told me that she saw you at one of the first battles here. I'm glad you
Yes.
were able to see her through.
I sort of grimace when I see Shihan taste the strange mortal woman's hand. I refrain from taking part in such customs, so I just nod respectfully to her and slightly bend my knees, as that will do. I will not be tasting the flesh of these mortals.
Yeah. Shihan looks over at, sort of glances over and says, "This is Ukion of Tunalwith. He we met by chance outside here, but he seems to be the sort who would, well, his arm would be a good addition against him once we find him. He seems powerful."
So when
I nod slightly and I say, "I am a servant of the Autumn Court, of the late King of Autumn that was slain so heinously, far beyond your years, your cycles. You are a powerful magician." I look towards Mira.
She kind of cocks a silver eyebrow. She's, "I'm no magician."
Forgive me, I've been mistaken.
I'm just a battle-worn babushka of my people.
I see. I say lying. Like, yeah, I know what that means. Uh, um, you also, you also seek this undying stain upon this world, the one that has torn the seasons into splinters.
I am one of the many shields that allows you to do your work.
Mm, I see.
She looks to the archwarden next to her and she says, Lumavarn has more information regarding that. I am just an accessory to this campaign. The archwarden, uh, he gives her a respectful bow, which I mean kind of looks a little alien seeing a fair folk actually give such respect to a mortal, but you kind of get this air that Mirai has absolutely earned it amongst the Fae anyway. Um, you will quickly find out that she is a successful warlord, or what the mortals call a war queen. Uh, Amongst their tribes, she has unified at least her portion of the Loping Plains area, and she is one of the center columns against the Atlanteans across the river, which, as you guys will know, culturally is a place of honor amongst the fighting men of the Fae. Um, the Archwarden will explain that we have a an associate that is missing, and he's recently been late. He's supposed to have checked in, but we're afraid that he and his companions had been slain. I had been uh, I had been informed that this associate of ours was uh, meeting with the Astromancer some several chains ago, and has since disappeared. Um,
I see. And you wish for. And I look over towards Shihan. I suppose you wish for us to find this one and return him to you.
I would like for you to find Ilmatar. Yes, he's he is a dear friend, and his followers are here within the camp. Uh, he has some information for us that we can't proceed without.
Forgive me, my lord, and I cannot speak on behalf of Shihan the Red Blade, but I myself am seeking a quarry, the one responsible for what has been happening outside.
Ilmatar has.
What does this have to do with... Ah, I see. And I kind of take in his words and ponder if I'm being tricked somehow by these people. Perhaps this is some sort of ruse that they were seeking to use me and my companion here for some sort of for their own means, for their own end in this war against the Atlanteans, and a war which I have nothing to do with. I sort of just now watch them and take stock of their words.
So we have one who has gone missing, you say, and you suspect foul play.
Yes, with the growing troll presence, without knowing whose side that they're on, we're expecting the worst.
Shihan thinks about it for a moment, and He looks over at Mirai, and he said he looks at her and says, "Would it please you if I found this one?"
It would greatly.
Then I will pledge my bow to this endeavor. Yeah,
If I may ask, kind of like slightly interrupting Shihan's pledge for this hunt, if I may ask, what connection does this one have to Endukaga?
Shihan literally growls at that word, and you see him almost physically pushing down rage. You actually see a vein start to actually pulse inside of his head.
I take note of that. What connection does he have to this one?
Ilmatar was companion to one who was there when Lumifarn steals a look to Shihan, and he was about to say the unspeakable name, but thought better of it. Says he was a companion to one who was present when the enemy was slain.
I see. Forgive me for uttering the accursed one's name. I just wish to make sure that we are speaking of the same one. Again, I ask for your forgiveness. I mean no disrespect. Kinsman.
Shihan just nods, almost as if he's afraid to actually speak. But he nods.
Now, we're going to change scenes briefly here. Wandering through the wilderness with frayed nerves and almost starved twice, with much of your ritual components, your armor, your gear, in tatters. Really, the only thing that you're able to have kept in any sort of functioning condition, the staff clutched in your white-knuckled grip, Samanak, or now Samanak, the entity formerly known as Ilmatar. You crawl your way through a muddy ditch up onto the weather-beaten deer path that has been turned into a temporary road, packed down by wagon trains and mammoths. You find yourself with an eye shot, the edge of this encampment, and a curse kind of chokes out between your parched lips. Thank all the gods, we're back. You lean on your staff. Samanak, would you describe your character for us?
Salmanac, sorry, I can't talk today. Otherwise known as Ilmatar, is a Dawn Fairfolk. Once he looked very immaculate in his fey iron with his weapon and his ritual components and his acolytes around him, now looks to be a simple husk of the man he used to be. Narrator, quick question. Did he take enough shadow sickness from the events to start having the ink creep into his fingers?
Yes, and you should have, I believe, the merciless degeneration.
Okay.
That should equate to fingertips and your fingernails starting to become inky black. Not your tears yet, though. Thank the gods.
So we see Salmanac clutching that staff. His armor and his clothes are tattered, dirty, and dented. He doesn't even have a poultice anymore. They all went dry on him, unfortunately. But yeah, where you see him holding onto his staff, you do see it's white knuckled. He's gripping that thing. Not even death could rip that thing out of his hands right now with how hard he is gripping it. But you do see the very tips of that inky black contrast against the white skin. And as he does see the encampment, it's a mix of curses as well as prayers of, I made it. And he kind of looks around as if like almost out of habit to see his compatriots, and then he's like, only I made it. And he will, with as measured steps as he can do in his tired, weary state, begin to walk down to the encampment, trying his best to hold it together. But anyone who looks at him even slightly sideways will get a glare of death itself from him. And anyone who simply looks at him in general sees sunken eyes, sunken features, a man who looks like he has not seen sleep in at least a chain, just tired, beat down, yet sleep is evading, and even when he is awake, the nightmares keep coming. But with that, we will see Samanak Ilmatar make his way to the encampment to try to find the commanding officer.
There's a few moments of lull here within the pavilion, and Lumafarn and Mirai both dismiss you both. They with warm goodbyes, especially from Mirai. She actually wrap Shihan in the customary embrace of a babushka, and she goes, "Keep yourself safe, autumn spirit."
Always, Babushka. Always.
When she lets you go, you both turn, and as you're about to leave, and shouts of alarm and commotion come to your Fey ears, and unfortunately, uh, as pact bearer, Shihan, you steal almost a protective look back at Mirai, whose broadsword has already leapt into her hand, and
Oh.
she's dropped herself into a crouch with that shield coming forward, thinking that you're going to be attacked.
I'll actually step back and draw one of those fancily fletched arrows, the or not ebon, the Fey iron head, probably a glow. And he'll just almost instinctively pull up on her shield side.
There's a few moments of alarm, shouts, and then quiet, shouts of welcome. It's not battle. And Mirai just looks to you both, Shihan and Ukian, and she goes, "Go, I'll be with you shortly."
Okay. She'll still glance over to Ukian and give him a nod before heading toward the door. Arrow still
Yeah.
drawn, bow not pulled back, but definitely knocked.
You see when you glance over towards Ukion, you see the staff, or this implement he has with him. The head of whatever this wrapping was on its head has been removed, and it's now shining a gleaming bronze of some sort of strange polearm that is glinting here and sort of in a ready position, staring at the horizon. And following your lead, still not sure what's going on exactly, but tense and alert and ready to deal death if need be.
She'll step to the flap and off to the right, giving the path out to Ukion so that they can see what's going on. And he'll scan the crowd, see what the commotion is.
As you guys walk out into that main pathway, there are some younger still fair folk, 6 of them in total, that maybe barely into their adult years. dressed as acolytes, and they're hooting their praise and their thanks. Their master has returned, and in one piece, as you see across the way, there is. You hope it is a cousin, a kinsman of Fairfolk, but it is. Shihan is familiar with that pallor, that kind of darkness.
He will replace his arrow back into his quiver and walk forward toward this figure.
I'll
Where-
march ahead if possible, brushing the side of Shihan towards this ragged kinsman walking down the road, who looks like he's been through a storm or perhaps a war. I walk up to you, this dark clad in robed linen and this brilliant orange emblazoned vestment, some sort of armor, some wooden clacks and clicks slightly, as this strange figure approaches you with purpose, Somanak, and I grab a hold of your shoulder and inquire. I say, "Kinsman, what is going on? Is there an attack?"
As soon as you grab hold of his shoulder, out of reflex, he almost swings at you with his staff.
Like as I step back, staggering slightly, almost tripping over my feet from this sudden, from this wrath, from this rage, from this one.
And
What goes on? Why you
he
strike at me?
He just looks at you, and you can tell it's the gaze of a man who is not centered. It's a gaze of a man that when he looks at you, he's still seeing the nightmare.
So I squint my eyes, and I sort of like step back 2 feet. Yeah, go ahead.
And Shihan's hand comes down upon your shoulder as you step back, and he says, "One should not approach a wounded animal so directly." And he looks at Somanak with a knowing look in his eyes, and he says,
one of his younger acolytes will shoot you two newcomers almost a deathly look. You will not, she says, you will not place your hands upon the master. He is ill. And
Shihan will look at her with a just absolute vicious look in his eyes, and he'll say, "Then take care of him, young one. He's obviously in distress. Why is he standing here without being supported? Where is his bath? Where is his food? If you think so much of him, why do you not take care of him?" And it's
he
very much
only just returned.
Mm-hmm.
He has been missing for don't know how long. As these 6 young men, these young men and women, these acolytes are again fawning all over him, trying to get him in situated. One brings over brings him over to a bench and then almost force feeds him, tries to bathe his face and it's at this point it's probably Ilmatar, poor Ilmatar, off all of you.
Okian will notice as Shihan sort of turns away from this woman, a look in his eyes that's almost a memory of that darkness that this other fair folk apparently is experiencing. And it's almost as if he has to push it down for a moment. He says, "Forgive me. I lost my tongue." And he'll turn his back and sort of walk away a few feet, as if gathering himself.
Salmonek actually won't say anything. He hasn't been able to form words in a little while because just everything's fresh, and this is like the first human interaction he's had in forever. So like when all the acolytes are up on him, and even the thing with Shihan, the acolyte, and Okian, he raises his free hand, just stop, like that.
All of your followers just stop in their tracks. They just
and he'll look to Shihan and Okeon, and you can tell this takes effort. Like he's trying to. It's not that he's regressed. It's just he's still breaking out of everything. But he just looks to you two and he just says, "Where's the commander?"
I look behind me towards the pavilion.
Shihan will look over his shoulder and say, motion with his head and say, "Follow me." And he'll start walking toward the pavilion.
I'll follow.
And with wary, half dead steps, Salmonak will follow behind these two. His acolytes probably trailing behind him, and he'll just look at them and just be like, "I'll be back. I'll be back."
It is customary for you to be attended by at least 2, but the other 4 will go back to where your portion of this encampment would be and await further orders. But they will actually stay outside the pavilion. They have not been asked to. But we reconnoiter back into the war room, if you will. And Lumifarn, the archdruid, a long distant acquaintance and friend to the late Ilmatar, looks up from his materials. He smiles. Like, "Oh, that was very quick." He just smiles, gets up from where he's sitting, and he comes over to Salmonak with his arms out almost for an embrace, but he stops part way and sees your fingers. He says, "Who and what have done this to you?"
Don't burn them.
Don't burn whom, brother? He'll actually turn and he'll motion to one of the nicer chairs, and should you sit?
Red skin. All dead.
All right. Your companions are all dead. Even the scout that we'd had from the Umbriads, he's perished.
You see him like trying to think for a moment. Was that the one that actually survived, narrator?
No, actually. Keith's previous character actually was the first to
Yeah,
die.
he perished. Who's the one that died then? Because I can't think of his name right now. Or is it just they're all dead? Okay. Hold on. Yeah. Yeah, when he's asked about the scout being dead, he nods his head on that one. Yes.
Then all his knowledge is lost too.
We sought to burn and bury. And as he's saying this, he's getting like the not quite the dry heaving, but it's definitely like the whole. And he needs a couple seconds in between words. We sought to burn and bury. They smoked. Everyone died.
Whose bodies were you burning?
Redskin devils.
These devils attacked you. What did they look like? Where did they come from?
And Salmonak's trying to like go back through the memories without having a complete freak out here. So of course
And-
it's gonna be very short.
And suddenly, as an interruption, even at very much out of character frame at the moment, you hear Shihan say, "Did they have horns like crowns?" And he's gripping this scarf around his neck with a murderer's grip.
Now, it'll be the first time that Salmonak's actually seen this, but it's the same color red, which may or may not. Actually, I'm going to need for you to make a corruption save because we might actually lose you right now.
What's the corruption save?
Life force. So that is 2d8, your level plus your sight modifier.
At least sight's still high enough.
Oh shit.
That's a 16.
That's a 6. Hot damn. With that, well, Shihan's not trying to make it any worse, but unwittingly he has made it worse for you.
Can we make a self-control check too?
Yes, please, self-control.
Oh god.
Oh god, what did you roll?
I got a 1 and an 8.
All right, that is a suppress, an 8. Now, with Merciless, you're probably very likely to attack not Shihan, but an
The scarf.
apparition that is attached to that scarf, which I will tell you, Salmonak will absolutely be hallucinating this for the next few moments. He's not in the war room anymore. He is on a cold, craggy, windy steppe. The muddy ground has been frozen solid with permafrost here. There is yet it's lightly snowing here, and there's a pack of these red devil people. 9 of them, as you briefly count. 3 of them are mounted, and then 2 of them are upon you. And I'm going to need a defense test from you. And what we here in the war room see, Salmonak drop into a defensive posture, and he attacks something that's not there, the air, and he will almost actually he's not attacking Shihan, he's attacking what was probably in front of him. And once that
12.
Okay.
I do a defense test to make sure I get out of the way.
He is not close enough to you to land.
Okay.
You can actually stay there and actually have the thing pass.
Oh.
You obviously feel the gust of
Yeah.
wind.
He'll probably step back
Okay.
just to give him room.
And in this hallucination, you do slay the red devil antagonist there, and then there's blackness, and you faint. The last thing that you see is the permafrost muddy ground rushing up to meet you as these red devils attempt to plunge daggers into your pale flesh.
What has happened to him? He was screaming as if he was fighting some sort of spirit.
Shadow has crept into his mind. I've seen this before.
Shadow.
Yes.
Shadow.
That which hunts the darkness. That which even those who live in the night fear.
We should go outside and let them attend to him.
I think so, yes. So Shihan actually has a look in his eyes, almost of fear, because he knows how close he's come to that himself before. So he turns and he'll walk out and get into the air outside.
I quickly meet you and I say, I motion towards you, off to the side of the pavilion tent, a little bit away, as no doubt some people are running in, soldiers, warriors are running in to find out what's happened. There's a bit of commotion. I take you, Shihan, and I say, what happened there? When he saw what you showed him, he grew into that rage, that murderous spirit seemed to come over him. What did you show him? What is this?
This. He reaches up and grips the scarf or the cape. He says, "This is the prepared hide of one of those red devils, one whose name you mentioned earlier. I flayed it from his body myself."
You wear its skin.
Yes.
Why?
As a reminder to what it did, and a reminder to those who would seek to do it again, of what the price will be for those who attempt to slay the world itself.
But do you not understand that to bring such things upon your body, your form is to invite it? You wear it so casually, so callously. It has effects, these things. These things are of... these things attract energies and forces.
You see in his eyes as you say this, why he asks you why he does this, his eyes get dark to the point where they start to remind you a bit of that darkness, the tip of that fair folk's fingers, and his hand grips tighter and tighter onto this flesh that he has draped across his shoulders, and he says, finally, very shortly, "It brings me comfort." And he turns and actually walks out into the crowd. The first thing he comes across that may be alcoholic, he is snatching from whoever has it and starts drinking.
It's
I watch
that the mortals have been brewing for the past the gods only know how long.
I watch you storm away, and it's then that I really my eyes sort of study your antlers, your black antlers as you walk away. And then I pinch my eyes, my eyebrows, begin to rub my eyebrows as I contemplate the situation here, the state that our kin here in this land of war and carnage. What is happening? This corruption that is spreading. I leave Shihan to his I leave him to his affairs, and I linger nearby the tent, just keeping an eye out, just pondering and thinking, trying not to look at that oak tree on the hill over there, trying to gain some sort of semblance of meditation as I plan for the events to come.
As it turns out, Salmonak was not out for very long until he was revived and brought back to the realm of the living. Lumafarn, your companion back in the woodlands, meets with you, and you spend a few hours reacquainting and trying to soothe some of those ills. He does mention to you that your remaining acolytes have been attempting to look into other individuals that may be able to help you. One of your acolytes will actually come over, one of the eldest of the three, eldest of the three males, I should say. Lunaran mentions in a moment of quiet, I have something for the master if he's if he's well to speak. As my oath, I know that he is master and arbiter in all things. I have found someone who can help us in our craft and on our journey to find the Undying One. I think it would help to speak it with your permission.
Salmonak will just wave him forward.
The youth says, I have been trying to find a way to craft more medicines in larger amounts for our wounded, and my studies have led me to another one of our kinsmen. He goes by the name of Tzek. He lives on the inner rim of the woodlands. He is a hermit. I know that he is known to be treacherous amongst non-Fae, but my liege, I know that your companions now are all Fae. So I believe what knowledge that Tzek has in the form of medicines, or he hesitates for a moment, filters that would be used to bring harm as opposed to cure. I think he would be able to help you on your journey.
Thank you, young one.
I have it on in good conscience that Tzek is, and he actually brings over a piece of paper that's kind of a partially scrawled map, and he hands it to you. He actually brings out your spell book from your tent that they've actually been adding to and keeping for you under lock and key, because I've added some notes. I think with the war effort, you finding the Undying One, Tzek might be a good pair of eyes in the dark, as the rumor has it that he is one for such things. The Archdruid, your colleague, looks from the youth to the spellbook to the map, and then back to Salmonak. I was actually going to send the two outside to go find you, but it seems that you had found us. Thank all the gods.
Thank all the gods.
And everyone else within the pavilion also utters, thank all the gods. They make the different holy symbols of their faith and they trace them in the air.
Salmonak he'll actually take his spell book and the map for a moment, and he'll actually go to a blank page. I'm assuming the acolyte probably has a writing utensil with him as well.
Oh yeah, no, you've kind of drilled it into your people that they have these on them on their persons at all time.
Okay. Salmonak will actually motion for. Let me see your pen, please. And he's actually now that symbol that he got from the Astromancer, is that able to be shared?
Yes.
Okay. Actually, let me put it this way. Does Salmonak think it can be shared, whether it actually can or not? Or would Salmonak have the inherent knowledge that it can't really be excessively taught or given out?
I think he would inherently know by its nature that he would not be able to teach it just by transcribing it into his spell book.
Okay. But he can at least put the notes down for it.
Right.
Okay. But he knows he'd actually have to go with the acolytes and be like, this is what you do. Sort of
Right.
ideal.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
That's fine. So yeah, Salmonak will actually write in the book for the symbol of Shog.
Okay.
And then he'll hand the book back to the acolyte after like thumbing through the notes that he was given. Be like, all of you will need to read this. We will go out, have a lesson if we find time. He'll then hand the map back to the acolyte. And did he actually get Shihan and Okeon's names, or was that lost in the shuffle? I think that was lost in the shuffle.
It may have been lost in the shuffle. We
Okay.
have not had formal introductions just yet.
Okay. He'll look to the acolyte and just say, take this to the two that were sent to find me and tell them that we will be making plans soon to leave. He would then look at his colleague, because he's basically had his acolyte have a job, so his acolyte's going to bugger off. He's going to look to his colleague and he's going to tell him about the fact that the one obelisk they found outside the tree was one part. There are 5. At least.
At that he said you say one part, and he just kind of knits his eyebrows, and then you said of 5. His eyes go wide. That is an enormous ritual circle.
And each of those have their own ritual circles.
With all this at this point, Lumifarn is he stands up, he turns away from you, almost irate. He goes, the layered sorcery. I've seen this. We've disrupted the rituals that bind the henge. If you go back there now, you will see that I have done this. There's 5 more or 4 more at least.
What became of the tree?
The tree barely clings to life. Yet, I go back every few days.
And how fares the king?
He fares well. He's finally out of his fortress in Tenilith. He is here with us.
Now, the Salmonak and it's Lumifarn, right?
Yep, Lumifarn.
Okay.
Let me put it
Lumifarn,
in-
sorry.
let me put it in
Are
chat.
they talking about the same king right now?
Are you talking about your king, the High King of the Fair Folk?
I'm talking about the king that dwells within that tree.
Oh, you're actually referring to Oberon himself.
Yes, I couldn't remember his name.
Well, that's the
Which-
case, he's
Which when Lumifarn mentions the kings come out, he's going to look at it and say, no, the other king.
no, Oberon is still within the realm of the fairies.
If that tree falls, he might.
I have a place that I need to be, brother. And with that, he almost in a Gandalf fashion, he turns. He looks. He shoots a look at across the room and to a pile of personal effects, and with a word of power, the sword that's actually draped across the chair leaps from the chair to his awaiting hand. The staff comes as well, and with an arm kind of like thrust out, a satchel hangs itself on his shoulder. He goes, if I don't come back, he doesn't turn to look at you as he leaves the tent. If I don't come back, fairly well. And
You'll come
Lumafar
back.
leaves. You quite literally, and you walk past those of us who are outside, the pavilion, and you see a kind of a look of crazed dread on the archwarden's countenance, and an attendant like stands up to follow, and he goes, "No, you stay here. I will. I can travel well enough and quicker alone."
I'm lingering outside the tent, just watching. I see this great sorcerer, this great magician leave, and I wait outside.
There's a few moments, and then Samanak, you probably will come out and kind of breathe in that frosty autumn evening air, and the three of you will have a scene there. Three fair folk thrust together in a hunt looking for Endukaga the Undying.
When I see Solmanak and I'm permitted to approach by his retainers, his retinue, I go up and I have this staff, and I tap it twice, and in a respectful, traditional warrior salute, I show you that respect, Solmanak, and I say, "My lord, I wish to apologize. I beg for your forgiveness earlier for manhandling you in the streets. I was not aware of your station. I ask for your forgiveness."
There is none to be given because there was none to be needed. You did not know. I was not in the right mind, and to be completely honest, I am not quite sure I am in the right mind yet. But at least I am better than I was before. So do not worry about it. And maybe we can have a proper greeting this time.
I raise my head and I give a smile. My features relax a little bit. I raise my head. How tall is his almanac? Out of curiosity.
I think he was just under 6 foot.
Not very tall. So I look up. I look up slightly. Now my chin raised high and now proud, I display the emblem of the autumn oak upon my chest, my wooden breastplate, and I announce, "My name is Ukian of Tunev. I'm a servant of the autumn court. I have ventured far, myself and many of my order, to find the Undying One. I'm here to lend my blade to this cause and my expertise. It has been far too long that the seasons have been stagnant. I am here to help correct that and return the crown to its rightful position in the court. To this end, I will give you my support and aid."
From off to the side, where Shion had sat down upon a bit of wood there with whatever this drink was that he had taken, as he finishes off whatever the last draught of that is, he looks up. A look of pain crosses his face for a moment, then sort of clears as he sort of resolves himself. And he says, "Among my people here, the Dawn, I was once known as Shion, and I thought for a time I might reclaim that name, but..." He looks over at Ukian and he says, "But I'm reminded that that name is dead. Among those that beyond this camp, among the mortals, I am simply known as Aron. And I think that is the name that I shall bear from here for henceforth." And
"So be it, Aron."
Salmonak will look at both of you as you guys give your names, and he'll actually kind of draw himself up a little bit, trying to get a little bit of, I guess, pride in who he is. And people know me as Omatar. Unfortunately, he died when his compatriots did. I now go by Salmonak, priest to the silent monolith, warden of winter. I thank you for your support, and I hope I can give it in kind.
I owe you an apology myself. You see that he's sort of, in fact, I guess the time of day, it's after sundown at this point, isn't it, narrator?
It's getting close.
Okay.
We've got dying light of the day.
Okay, so he has positioned himself as sort of a shadowy area, so the clothing he wears isn't as noticeable. He looks right at Summonak and he says, "I owe you an apology. It seems that, well, a trophy of mine may have brought back bad memories." And you can see his arm up, clutching something near his neck. I mean, sort of hard to see from the way he's sitting, but he says, "If it bothers you, I will keep it under my cloak."
Narrator, is it going to bother him every time he sees the scarf?
No, you had that initial shock. It's not pleasant to look upon, plain and simple. But
No,
you've muscled past the worst of it.
It's not a phobia. It's just a
No.
oh crap, that's a trigger type of thing.
Kinda, yeah.
Okay.
he says, "I don't." I said, "You say you are a warden of winter. Do you have a way to find things that are associated with things?" I've heard tale from the bush because that was a trick they know.
Find things associated with things.
If you have something that belongs to someone, can you find them?
I cannot. That is a different, and he'll try thinking of the word to use. Type of person that does that.
Shame. Do you know these people?
I did know maybe one or two, but it's hard to tell with time and distance and the war going on, of course.
You notice the tension in the arm before it was very, very tense. You sort of notice it under the cloth relaxing just a bit, almost, and you see that the hand may motioning more of a thoughtful motion than a sort of a trying, barely suppressed rage. And he says, "If you could take me to these people, they might be able to help us find that one."
We can definitely try to go that route. He'll look to his senior acolyte who had the map. Where is he at?
Just behind you and to your left, respectfully, with his eyes downcast.
He'll motion up to that one. That map. Do you still have it?
He produces it for you.
Have you told these two yet?
I have not. I was about to. He looks very sheepishly down at the mud again.
A map.
What was his name again? Tezret?
Tezek.
Tezek. Sorry, I'm horrible with names right now, as you can tell. Tezek may be of help to us. My follower here was doing some research and found some information for us.
Now, for Ukion specifically, being up to Nelith Tenouth is a city proper. Um, there is no small amount of rumor that goes around. The one known as Tezek is whispered to be uh, almost a magician or a mystic in his own right that
Mm.
dabbles in mystical filters and potions of some kind, but some also whisper that he is a brigand and a thief, but he peddles things that are less savory in what would you probably consider honorable combat. Um, some whisper assassin, some whisper thief, mystic, a brewer of potion, an alchemist of some kind, and he's not pleasant to dwell upon in mind. You've never
Yeah.
met him personally, but then again, you don't know him. But commonly known, he's not a nice guy.
I repress an ironic or perhaps um the absurdity of this situation and the perhaps that makes sense. Um, having to come across the various outcasts of our kin and our kind outside here in this place on the war-torn frontiers of civilization, of the true civilization of the greatest city in the world. I just repress a chuckle. Of course, and I think to myself, of course, we will be associated with kinds such as these. But I don't dwell on these judgments. After all, I remember myself to be a kind in a similar situation as no doubt these having to leave. So I don't dwell on the judgment. But yeah, I find myself extremely interested. Far more now. I'm very interested in Salmonak now. This could be interesting.
As it is starting to get late, the dying light of the day sets behind the Great Divide Mountains. There, uh, you are almost somewhat forcefully bidden to take to your rest and to retire for the evening because
Before we split up and venture off, I will raise to Salmonak, and as we review the map and take stock of the current situation and our plans, I'll say to Salmonak, how long would you need to rest until you are able to travel, you and your retainers? Meanwhile, if you need some time, I could investigate the local area. You muted, I think.
Yep. Yeah, your boom's
Sorry.
down. Yep.
Not used to these things yet.
Ah.
No, Salmonak will actually he'll actually like take a step back and actually like give himself a look over. Like, oh crap, I look like shit.
As it finally dawns on you, then yeah, you've been rocked, and I'm
Yeah.
surprised I'm alive.
Yeah. And like the exhaustion, I think, will like finally kick in, like the real exhaustion, like tired, dirty, I'm hurt. Like he's not saying it's out loud. This is all internal, of course. So he'll look back at the other two, and then he'll actually look over at his acolytes and look back at you two and give me 2 days to rest, to repair, to prepare.
Auron simply nods.
And if you would like to scout ahead, so to speak, it'd be greatly appreciated, because all things considered, I am so okay with being done with surprises.
That
And with
sounds like
that,
a fine plan. 2 days then.
2 days. I'll see you here.
We will have 2 days worth of passage of time then.
Okay.
I will now. I'll actually give the party, each of you. I'll give you guys a brief soliloquy on what you plan to do for those those 48 hours. We'll start with Ukion. You've been given a tent, of course. You're not sleeping with the rest of the soldiers in the barracks, but it'll be near enough to where Salmonak lairs with the rest of his retainers. So 48 hours.
Yeah.
Go for it.
I will definitely. Maybe this could be a scene, depending. I would definitely wish to go and investigate or approach that tree that I felt that scream emanate from after I've taken some time, perhaps even that night, or perhaps early the next morning.
That scene, I would.
More than and I will, having spent, having known that Arwan had also felt that strange emanation, I will approach you and invite you along. I'm going to go and find out more about that spirit that lies trapped within that tree. If you would wish to come with me and we could learn more.
I can go with you, but I can tell you from experience, investigating spirits in trees can lead to unexpected consequences. But I will go and watch your back.
I am aware of the dangers. I do not fear. I am no acolyte in these matters.
So, in
we begin to make our way up
of that tree, the next scene, sometime later that evening, with the no, I will give you that light, significantly less light from the previous scene, but it's kind of basking those easternmost peaks in kind of like a yellow orange kind of helix there, kind of creating what looks to be like an enormous fire beyond those mountains as you stand in the midst of this oak tree that is unable to drop its leaves. Floor is yours, gentlemen.
I tentatively approach the tree. I unveil the covering from my pole arm and I place it gently in almost a ceremonial fashion on the ground, carefully before me, as I begin to form a ritual line with the spear. I take out a few tallow candles. As I start to bend down, Shihan, you see I start to do something that is not practical or not mundane, definitely. I take out these tallow candles and I light them slowly, arrange them before the spear. I then take out various fetishes and a small bag, soiled bag, and I take out of the bag what looks like to be the remains of the dried remains of a carrion bird. There are feathers there, and I begin to mutter and chant as I begin to take on a meditative state, trying to glean the anguish of the tree and learn more about the source of its pain. And as I begin to conduct this ritual, this low drone, reciting these ancient sutras, autumn. I then take this a handful of this carrion and I then squeeze my palm, my almost bony, pale palm, and squeeze the contents, and it almost seems as if a cloud of dust falls from my hand, from my clenched fist, and quickly feathers begin to sprout. And my hand elongates and kind of slightly even warps in a grotesque fashion, and almost like an undulating stream of frizzy feathers begins to grow quickly over my hand, almost covering it, and then I blow, and the feathers, like a dandelion, are blown off my hand, and these black feathers now begin to gently sway and rhythmically spin and flutter around this ritual area, blowing upon the cold wind. As in this, I will attempt to use an aspect of autumn, a mystical rite, to gleam the melancholy of this place, and in order to try and find a source of this sadness, of this anguish, and perhaps learn more.
It comes to your mind more in the sound of leaves in tall grass on a cold wind in your mind. It sounds like the crunching of leaves and the babbling of a distant rill. There's no words being spoken here, but you understand all of the words spoken here. This tree cannot drop her leaves until the world has been set right. Now, when you reach out with your consciousness to empathize with the spirit of this oak tree, you immediately have a weight so profound on you, it almost seems to crush you into the dust, and you get a semblance of what it is like to have this weight, these leaves, and not be able to put them down. You cannot imagine, you cannot put them down because this is the way of things. Life and season moves on, but I just can't. And that is the essence of the pain. I can't. I'm so tired. Please help. I cannot shed these leaves, though I want to. By all of the gods above and below us, where is winter? And then the connection fades from your ritual. You're left with this mournful feeling, how you can possibly help.
I breathe in and I exhale. The strange feathers of the ritual then blow away into the wind, into the cold wind of the evening. I sit there for a moment. The candles have been relit now. I sit there and ponder for a moment. I then reach into my satchel and produce seeds of the red pumpkin. And I take each of these seeds and I hold it above the flame of these tallow candles, and until they begin to crack and smolder, until I have a small handful, a small palm of these burnt or cooked pumpkin seeds. I then raise it, and I put the seeds in my left hand, and then I put it to my mouth, and I breathe in the smell of these cooked seeds, and then I mutter and whisper, and then blow out. And when I do, this emanating smell, this pleasant smell, Arwan, fills the area, and it smells really nice. Roasted pumpkin seeds. It smells really, really, really nice, and it kind of fills the area. And I, in another ritual, beads of sweat now perforating on my forehead. I now invoke the aspect of the harvest time, of the gratitude and joy of that time, of the harvest, of this festival, of a time of plenty and a time of preparation and a time of mirth before the coming end of winter. And in an effort to try and soothe the pain, this torture of this tree, I at least try and invoke a festival spirit, or a festival demeanor upon it, to try and ease its mind and ease the burden of its pains.
How many spell points do you use for that second ritual?
If I find, I'll probably use one at first, but if I don't know if I can do it mechanically, but I will try. I will try and use how many spell points I can in order to make sure that the ritual is successful. I do care about this.
Okay. You get one per level, and you get additional spell points for your sight modifier in total.
Okay.
And with that, you can raise the level of your ritual's potency by expending shedding more spell points into said ritual. And basically, what then you'll do is you'll make a ritual casting test, and I will I will actually take care of the tree from there. So
Sure. So I guess I can put 3 points. I guess that will be.
If any magic user in the system actually drops to zero, zero ritual points for spell points, they automatically gain 2 levels of exhaustion.
Yep.
You can, however, it's not used commonly, but you can also shed your physique score.
Yeah, and sort of burn
one.
myself. Yeah.
Right, which basically that becomes unrecoverable ability loss, but it is twice as potent. That creates that illustrates your intent in the spell, sacrificing yourself. So an example would be you cut off your hand to do a spell, which would be drastic as shit, but at that point,
be very powerful. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That would be almost
so
automatic.
I definitely don't want to be cutting off any limbs, but I will. I think
that's
yeah. I know. But that's really cool. I think I do really care about this, so I think I'll put 3 points into this.
Okay, make me a a ritual test here. It'll be 2d8 plus however many spell points that you're using, and your sight modifier.
Okay, so I rolled 12 on the dice.
Okay.
And so now my sight modifier is a +2, so that's going to be 14, and then +3.
Yes.
So that's going to be math 17.
Excellent. Now, with that, I'm going to say you actually blow out this ritual here. So you are going to soothe the pains of this tree. And actually, See, oh my goodness, that she's very dramatic. This oak spirit, she's very dramatic, and she drops all her leaves. You and Shihan are covered in oak leaves. So that's what's going to happen. But for the scene, I want you to narrate how all of this happens. I'm basically give you a soliloquy of your scene here. Take it away, Jono.
As I blow and a savory mist, a deep savory mist emanates from my clutched palm. As I blow this aspect and this blessing of the harvest of the seasons of festivities upon this tree, and then relax it and fill it with mirth. There is a warmness here and a slight glow as the tree then begins to relax, and almost as if the tree, whenever it appeared bony and twisted and gnarled and all these kinds of this. It had a weathered and wind-torn, wind-bent aspect to it, but it seems to now relax ever so slightly. Or is that a trick of the eye? Who can know? But it feels and now relaxes, and its bark is smoothed over slightly, and a warm breeze blows from the south, and the wind and the leaves now begin to fall slowly, one at first, and then two, and then three, and then four, until they begin to lightly, gently flutter down like feathers, and immediately something's changed in the air. There's electricity in the air. As I stand up and slightly sway from the these two sort of rituals took quite a little bit of time, about 40 minutes in total, I'd say. So I stand up and I see Aran is there, and I look over and I smile, and it's sort of like a bright, warm smile, and I say, Aran, she is calm now. She's better now.
Ron nods his head and says, that was a sight to behold. But I must say, whichever spiritual god you follow, I am happy they don't require you to use blood and gore. I can tell you from personal experience, traveling with someone who uses that, not good on the nose.
You've seen much, Arwan, though. It looks as if I am your elder, and you have experienced so much here. I'm sure you have many tales to tell, and I would be glad to hear it.
I have many. I was cast out as a youth for, well, not allowing callous young men to have their way with a village. And because
a village.
Well, you see these young nobles, they would come to me as a guide for hunts. They wanted me to find game for them, increasingly more challenging game, until eventually one of them wanted me to lead them to a mortal village. They wished to hunt a mortal because they felt that would be the most challenging game. But when I arrived, and I thought, we'll find some warriors and give them a good chance of it. But they began going after the old, the young. Not a very honorable thing to do. And I put an arrow in one of their heads. I couldn't hold myself back. Well, seeing that he was from a well-connected family, and I was not, I was cast out. He reaches up almost as if he's remembering a pain to his forehead. He says, they broke them off. But as you see,
I'm so sorry to hear that.
It caused me to grow in a different way than our own people. It's why this night I won't be sleeping in the tents of our kind, I'll be in the camp of the Nemercians. I feel more comfortable there now. That name is actually from their language. So there it's simply means hunter.
I see. I know little of them. I will be
There.
interested to learn more. But here, in this place,
Mhm.
friend, I would welcome you to a fire here and a meal. We may sit here beneath the oak tree and watch the feathers fall, watch the leaves fall. This is a safe place. It has been consecrated.
We'll sit here and have a meal with you under the tree.
You honor me with your presence, Arwan. I smile.
He sort of has a crooked smile at that, almost as if like, yeah, I'm not sure you know what you're talking about there. But he comes over and sits down, says, "You honor me with your hospitality."
And I take out the small, like, some sort of little equipment from this large sort of satchel by my side, and there's a shield, there's a small shield there as well. As I put that aside, use that as a cutting board, and I prepare a small meal of nuts, mostly nuts, things of the harvest, acorns, chestnuts, walnuts, and of course some pumpkin seeds. And these are roasted, and these are enjoyed and shared as as I sit beneath the tree of this place. But as I share this meal with this this outcast, this exile, this interesting, no doubt this powerful warrior or perhaps wizard of some kind, I do feel and sense that rasping sound of crackling leaves far away on the wind. And I think for a second as I look over towards the corner of my eye, I see something. A presence I feel, a familiar presence that I often feel when I partake in these grand mystical rites. And when I look, it's not there anymore, but I knew it was there. And I feel a shiver run up my spine slightly. As I then give thanks for the meal, I give thanks for the meal to Arathius, and I ask for his blessing and for the ability, the power to provide for ourselves, as we of the Dawn fair folk must provide for ourselves. We must be strong. We must be independent in order to be worthy of Awarthius's good graces and blessings. And so I give a prayer of thanks and gratitude and begin to eat. That's it.
Aram will actually produce out of one of his pouches a little wrapped package where he'll produce some hard cheese that he had been given at some point. Something that's the color is a bit of almost matches Okean's breastplate actually, and he pulls out his belt knife and slices a few pieces off to share with the nuts to add to the meal. He looks down and he looks up at the tree as the leaves are falling, and a song comes to mind, and he begins to sing. And I'll go ahead and make the roll for that real quick.
Oh, fantastic!
Oh, hell yeah! Hold on. And just for the narrator's 23.
Very good.
It is a song of the harvest that he learned from Nemercians, and he sings it in their language at first, which I'm not sure if Okean actually understands the language.
I don't think I don't think he does.
But after he sings it, he says, he looks over at Okean and says, "It is a song. It's a tale of the time when when some foul beings were attempting to break the rites of autumn, to break the rites of the harvest, and to bring the world low. Resulted in this, unfortunately. But
Mm.
you know,
I look impressed and just very. I enjoy that song
mhm,
and I listen and I listen to these stories and I grow a little bit more interested in these Nemersians as as they at least respected highly by this one.
yeah.
Though how good could they truly be? And I am still doubtful, but we shall see. Um, yeah, and I also share songs as well as I also have some skill in it and share some more customary songs of our kind, but of the harvest and of the changing seasons and of the coming winter.
Okay. I'm sure that down the hill in the valley below there where the camp is, they may occasionally hear a floating voice coming from this tree above, possibly haunting beautiful
Yes,
voices of mixed fair folk singing songs of, well,
yeah, no doubt. It looks like a witch fire is up there on the hill, and this oak tree, this bare oak tree, and there's strange rituals and candles and now singing.
okay. So there you go.
The guards of the palisade are shaking in their boots. Witches on the hill.
We will move from one scene gracefully to another. We will find Salmanek in his evening meditations, getting himself ready. His spell book is on his table. His acolytes have prepared um, his bath, his armor, his personal effects is being replaced and or repaired. Um, Much of his resources have been used, at least with the war effort, but they um, keep a fair remainder of it to keep the upkeep of him and his retainers there. Uh, what do we see in soliloquy form here as Salmanak is attempting to get ready for bed?
Gotta put that down. Now, what they see is, well, I mean, kind of like what you described, narrator. He has shed all of his armor. Most of his clothes have been taken away to be cleaned and or probably just burned and replaced by this time. Um, his armor has to be taken out to at least to get cleaned up and possibly out to a smith to get some of the bigger dents out. Of course, with notes that he's leaving in a couple of days, so post haste if at all possible. His outer acolyte would have put in a order to get his great shield replaced if possible. If not, he'll just have to go without. In his actual place where he is sleeping, he looks at the spell book, but tonight isn't really the time to ponder over that thing. His brain is too fried out from everything else going on. He'll look over the new notes that his acolytes put in. He'll briefly go over the notes that he put in just so he can teach them later. But for the most part, he kind of puts the spell book away and just lets his mind finally attempt to relax. He's safe. He's not home, but he's safe. So that's kind of good enough for him to try to unwind and relax. And of course, his acolytes, his followers have the bath drawn, the clothes out. So he will go through all the ritual of getting all cleaned up again, shaving if he needs to, getting his hair brushed out, rebraided if need be. Basically, all that upkeep stuff that he hasn't had the time or the mindset to do in the past, who even knows how long. So yeah, that's kind of where we see him lay.
As he drifts off to the lands of Morpheus, the dreamscape is not pleasant for Salmanek, as the corruption still lingers slightly on him. He dreams of these red-skinned devils and the the white, the charred, skeletal thing with the golden crown that laughed at them in the swamp and smote their companion with fire. And you relive that scene of seeing that hobgoblin warrior wade out into the clearing, bellow a war cry, and she was about to get him the best she could, and so effortlessly did this nightmare just engulf her in flames, and poof, she was ash, an ashen corpse there, and you were forced to retreat. You relive the scenes of those Red Devil raiders, these people astride these horned steeds that look almost somewhere between horse and deer and ram, some amalgamation of this, but clad in scarlet and ebon armor that's not right. Ebon is matte. It does not glitter in the sun, but this armor did. You sleep fitfully that night, but you're safe. You will then move to a soliloquy. We pass through many tents. We find ourselves amongst the Nemersian people. Oron is given a tent just near to the War Queen's pavilion. As you take a few moments to yourself after some small and but much needed celebration amongst the mournful and dismal battlefield here, what do we see of Oron?
So Aron, as he walks into this tent, you almost see he almost shrinks into himself. You can tell he's been putting on a sort of a brave front, if you will. But this, all the events that have happened over the past several hours have very much weighed on his mind. He had a hope coming into this camp of his people, which he hadn't really associated with in 150 or so cycles since he'd truly been cast out. It's the first time he's really moved among his old people before. Thus he was using his old name. But he realized that he has grown apart from them. The time away has changed him deeply. In some ways good, and in some ways very bad. And seeing Summonak so riddled with the shadow reminded him of how he barely escaped it himself. And that even though he has been, as some say, cleansed, that taint still hangs in the back of his mind. That rage still, he fights with it daily, and that fight drains him. The ritual on the hill and the songs and the fellowship with Okian there for a moment gave him a bit of solace, and was probably a good thing for him that night. But he sheds his cloak, takes the cape and lays it down on the cot that the bedroll that he has laid out there. Sits down, takes his boots off, sheds his gear and such, and he actually lays down and curls up on this thing, almost as if it's obvious to anyone who actually, if they were seeing this, it's a bit unhealthy the way he clings to this grisly trophy, if you will. And he lays his head down as he grips this thing, and he says, "I'll find you. I will find you, you bastard. You should have died for my blade before. How you escaped, I don't know, but I will find a way, and you will die, and this world will go on." And with that, his mind drifts off into the land of Morpheus, and he dreams of chasing red devils across hills and through catacombs and snatching their flesh from their bones as he cackles.
Dawn breaks on that second day. In a military encampment, the soldiers are up for their morning training. You three are well armed, well armored, and stocked for a journey back to the woodland realms, which for the three of you is back in the direction of home. Well, your heretical home. Some of you might find home amongst others. But to Ukion, at least, this may or may not be a pleasant journey home. To
At least
Salmonak,
more familiar trails.
yes, of course. To Salmonak, this is a journey to find another one who could aid you in your travels. I will give you guys a brief passage of time here. The road is mostly uneventful. You are not accosted by any raiders. You are not accosted by any primordial predators or megafauna and such, any shaggy, nightmarish monsters that prowl the woodlands and the plains. You find yourselves then some chains hence on the edge of the woodland realm. Some of you may offer up a prayer to Awarthios, saying, "Oh, we've made it there safely. May the stag god ward us against unfriendly eyes here." Salmonak, you produce a map that might find us in the abode or near to the abode of this entity known as Tzek. There's a village that you find yourself in near to here. You're able to resupply and then move on. You utter the word Tzek, the name, into some ears, and at first you are turned away. They do not wish to speak to you, these locals, even if they are your kin. Why? Suspiciously so.
I say to my companions, it has been very difficult for us to get word from anyone about this Tzek. What do we know about this one? Why does he have such an ill omen around his name? I look over towards Arwan and Salmonak.
Auron says, maybe it's because he has bad luck. He is considered to be one of ill omen, I suppose. I've experienced this myself, those who will not speak my name.
I don't know about the ill. I don't know why he would have a bad omen around his name. I have never heard of this man before my acolyte brought him up. All I know is that the secrets I hope he possesses is going to help the war effort. And the more people we can help heal or not be harmed in general, the better for us all.
Yes. Still, I am concerned as to why others, our kind, even our kin, are not willing to speak of his name. Let us press on. Maybe we can find something in the next village.
We can always just forcefully question someone about this thing. If they know enough to fear him, they know enough to tell us why they fear him. I would think.
In
I look a little bit uncomfortable with that idea, but
Nice, well done, Keith. A few days hence from here, you find yourself in a village known as Bren. Ukian, you've never been here, but you've certainly heard of it. It's a country hamlet, tucked into a dense pocket of maples, evergreens, and birches. And rumor has it that there is a sacred grove somewhere, somewhere near here, which might catch your heart into your throat once you find this out.
mm,
But Bren itself is quiet enough, as the rumor goes. Um, a watchman, a young man. He's barely old enough to even be out by himself, let alone be carrying a war bow of such magnitude. He stands in on a platform just above you, where this gatehouse is, and he calls down to you. Who are you three that wish to enter this place? He doesn't have an arrow knocked, but this young buck probably it's for his job, so he's probably puffed up with a little bit of pride and wanting to do it nicely and well. But
yes,
he's got a bit of a little.
the zealousness of youth. I have a quick question: Do we have the Summon X retainers with us, traveling with us, or is it just three of us?
Just the three of you.
Okay, interesting.
Salonak does not bring his retainers with unless they're absolutely needed.
Very cool.
Lest they perish on the road. But no, he does holler to you. Who goes there?
I look over towards Solmanak. As he was better received in the last town, they looked at me strangely, and someone screamed at Arwan. Perhaps you should take this.
Salmonak will walk up. He has his staff and he has his armor on. He has his great shield on his back, and he'll tap his staff twice on the ground. Look up at the boy, and say, "I'm Salmonak, priest of the Silent Monolith. We were
Are you
hoping
here to
to.
inspect our shrine?"
It's a nice one.
He takes a few moments. He goes, "Well, we think so."
Well, then perhaps I would like to see if it is so.
All right.
Otherwise, we are here to rest and restock. If you would be so kind.
I believe by your countenance you are kinsman. From what chiefdom do you hail? We have some enemies in neighboring chiefdoms. He kind of eyes you narrowly. It's like, really, kid? Open the goddamn door. Yeah.
Do not concern yourself. We are envoys from faraway lands.
Further away than your rival clans nearby. I assure you, we have no quarrel with you or with them.
Village politics. It's always the same, no matter which village you're in. Accusations. This one stole my sheep. This one stole my badger. On and on and on it goes.
Aron nods. Badger theft is a problem in these areas, I hear.
Yes. Poaching.
The youth top on the gatehouse turns and he says something to someone that's just out of sight. A few moments later, the gate opens. Great wooden doors open there. And you are bidden to enter. One of the things that you do see immediately once the doors do open is a not unpleasant shrine to the silent monolith in the center of town. It kind of doubles as a well, a fountain, and a shrine all in one. As one large standing stone there, which may or may not give Samanek a startled fright. It was like, oh, does it have chains? Does it have evil runes above? Okay, this one's fine. Oh, God's above us. We're okay.
Right, and you actually look at that. You see that like that look of like, oh crap, what's coming? What's coming? What's coming? What's coming? Okay, we're good. And then he will actually go up and make like a 360 around it and make a big old hem and haw of, oh, this looks nice and this looks pretty and that's really well done. Like trying to say it kind of out loud because he's assuming at least a couple of villagers are around.
As far as they're concerned, you are a wandering priest that is inspecting shrines, which is commonplace.
Okay.
They're kind of in an outer reaching kind of village. So the fact that you guys were tempted to be accosted because, oh, our fiefdom is at war with another fiefdom. It's like, really? You guys are small shit. Shut up. You guys barely have a windmill in your town to pound grain. Hush.
So as Summonak is doing his inspection, Aron's going to cast his eye about, looking for the warriors among these people and how they're armed. Notice the boy at the front had a fairly impressive war bow. Does this look to be do they have a possible master bowyer in this town? It seems based on what I'm saying.
It would seem so. This is a less fortunate village. There's not much in the way of metallurgy when it comes to armor. Most of the warriors here have like wooden breastplates, not unlike Ukion's, but those who do have exceptional weapons are either copper or bronze. The only thing that is glittering in the Fey Iron fashion is Somonak's effects here, actually. So he's clearly a wealthy and well sought magician and high priest in his circles. But the woodcraft of this place, oh, that's pretty. Yes.
I'm
Okay,
definitely inspecting that.
You might be kind of jealous. You're like, oh, mine doesn't even look that good. All right.
I'm really impressed, especially in a small village like this. I'm especially looking at the shrine, and if Somanak, you're sort of looking at the shrine as well. I'm just walking around with you and just pointing out a few things, and I see to it like some of the features of the shrine and how it's constructed, how it's built. I seem to, in a respectful manner, in a respectful fashion, because this is a religious shrine to the Silent Monolith, you show respect. Fuck's sake. I kind of move around and I point out a few things and sort of give it a respectful critique, and how it's constructed and you know what additions could be made. This archway over here could be done a little bit better, and perhaps a crown atop here would fit most spectaculously. This is actually quite a fine piece here, far better than the other shrine or the last two we visited in the last two villages past. Fine work. I would like to meet the one who carved this. This is something that I would see in the city.
One
Fine
of the
work.
warriors, maybe a little bit older than the rest, you're not sure if he's probably captain here, but he is a more skilled warrior with the cut of his jib, so to speak. He goes, the carpenter that has done much of our arms and our artwork here goes by the name of Loom. He lives on the hill beyond the wheat fields, and he points out through what would probably be the adjacent gate beneath kind of a flowering willow tree there. You actually do see a house on a hill, some walk, maybe 20-minute walk from the village. Beyond the palisade, uh, it does come as some concern of why someone is so skilled could be so and so precious to a community. Why is he living outside?
Exposed. Yeah.
Yes, beyond the palisade, which the palisade is for a country village, a thorp of this kind, is impressive. They're
Yeah.
trying to make a village into a fortress, or much less a wooden castle, so to speak.
Mm.
It just doesn't
They
have
are they are protecting a very fine a dedication, a shrine here, so it makes sense. It makes sense in the mind of Ukian at least. Still very very interesting, very notable. I say to this warrior, then he's a fine craftsman, a fine master of his work. Indeed, you should be proud. It is good that you are proud of this shrine. It has no doubt given you many blessings from the great silent monolith.
a bunch of the warriors actually kind of like puff up, like they're with pride here. Like this is kind of like the crown jewel of their village. Like, oh, foreigners, people or wanderers are saying nice things about it. So there's many bards who come and have pilgrimages to this shrine, and they leave offerings of flowering wreaths, and you see on what looks to be like kind of like a coat rack, but it's made out of deer antlers. It's basically a leaf rack that has, or you see, a wreath rack that has a bunch of like flower garlands all over it. It's kind of dressed up real nice, and that's what he's indicating there.
I do take some time to leave an offering before the shrine.
What sort of offering do you leave?
I leave some polished amber stones,
Ooh,
and I leave that as a fine trinket. The ancient sap of the great trees.
oh,
I leave that as an offering, and I mutter a silent prayer to the silent monolith, as it were.
beautiful. Almost in reply to your offering, the stone itself has a excuse me, a hole born through the top of it. So when the winds change, the stone itself sings. Um,
Oh, very nice.
the When you leave your offering, the wind seems to mystically change in a way where it kind of like makes a dip in pitch, and then skyrockets there again. Kind of like with that, you now feel there's almost like a silent reverence, a mystical calm here. Even spiritually, this place is protected, and it now sticks out to the three of you. What could be so precious, or what could be so horrid that we need such layers and layers of defense? Clearly, the stone is the precious thing.
Yeah, Aron looks at these defenses, these high walls around this place, and he looks at this warrior that's been come to speak with him. And he says, "You have powerful enemies."
Uh, he kind of looks a little uncomfortable at that. He goes, beings of the dark, uh, as well as goblins and far worse, stalk the lands here.
And he
Since
motions
the
with
time that autumn has refused to change, these entities of the dark have come more frequently.
That is concern for all in the land at the moment. He motions with his chin toward the house on the hill beyond the palisade and says, "Is he so powerful and feared that these beings of the dark do not harass him in his own home?"
Oh, when you see Loom's home, you will see that he is as hard to kill as a cat. He is a little straight, a little deadpan. Like you see, oh, you'll see.
Ron just nods. He said, "Would you be so kind as to give my friends here an introduction?"
I can.
He'll look at the other district companions, sort of as if, is that okay with you guys?
Yeah, I walk over, I smile. It would be very fine to meet him. Is your master, is he, I assume, a master of his craft, he would be long-lived?
He is Loom is the eldest of the village. Yes.
Hmm.
He
It'll be
has
fantastic.
since
It'll be a blessing to speak to him.
he has since become the backbone of our community, and we fear that the calling might be upon him soon.
I see. Well then, we would like to meet him before the calling takes him away. I kind of smile.
With that, this warrior will actually jog off in the direction of that home. You guys are left here for a little bit of time. Refreshments and food is brought to you in the harvest time fair. Some heavily alcoholic ciders are brought to you, which does a very good job of beating back that cold. And one of the younger maidens comes out, and then she gives Ukion and Salmanak like heavy woolen woven scarves of the yellow and the white yak that inhabit some of the lowland river valleys here in the woodlands. A beast that you're not unfamiliar with. They're woven in some harvest patterns, and these are gifts from the community given to you. A couple of these young maidens don't want to necessarily approach Oron too closely, as his armor, and clearly he's already got a scarf that is keeping him quite warm, and we don't want to stand too close, and, lest he might be a devil in disguise and snatch away these virgin ladies.
He understands. He's used to it at this point.
I graciously accept the gift, this yellow yak scarf, and I'm kind of taken aback by the kindness that this village is showing us. I'm not really accustomed to this, so this is really fine. Really fine gifts. I assume it's because of Solmanak. Perhaps he has some sort of reputation that precedes him, and the villagers are here giving us offerings so that perhaps he doesn't destroy them in some sort of fit or fury. I assume such things. That makes sense. So if it takes a little while for this man to come down from the house, I will go as a form of repayment to these people. I will go and attempt to invigorate the fields of this community if they have vegetable patches or garden patches. Invoking an aspect, even using a spell. How do you recover spell points? Is it resting per day?
Keith, it's resting per day, right? Or
you can recover up to your sight modifier by resting for a full day. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm probably full from the last time because it's been a couple of days.
Oh, yeah. It's been a few chains. You're perfectly fine. You're ready to go.
Yeah. So I will conduct a small blessing over the vegetable gardens and fields to give them to give the plants a bit of a boost using an aspect of the harvest time. Perhaps the pumpkins that are growing are a little bit rounder and a little bit more filled now.
Oh, beautiful. Um, Shihan, do you go with Ukion into these fields as you're waiting to be met with the master carpenter Loom?
He'll accompany him to the edge of the fields, but he won't himself go into them
Okay,
because he is
which is
he
probably
is
good that you don't, because there
he's
is a
familiar with the
certain
idea.
species of scarecrow out there that
Hmm.
might catch you fright.
Yes,
And
he
if you would
notices
like to
that.
just describe the said scarecrow for us and the trauma that it brings, Shihan, please do so.
So yes, most likely he sees out in the middle of this field this totem, if you will, of a tattered clad in tattered clothing figure, the arms seeming to stretch out into these long thin claws. The most likely the top is capped with an antlered skull of some type that has been decorated and carved, potentially like protective runes and such carved into the actual skull itself and along the antlers. Been bleached in the sun and cleaned of all flesh. Below, the legs come down almost as if they're rooting into the ground. And this thing looms hunched almost as if it's about to step forward. And this totem, of course, is the a totem to the one of the many harvest kings in the area. Um, and it does remind Aron of an encounter he had with a member of the court, actually, that Ukion does apparently worship.
Um,
So
Ukion is very familiar with what a Reaper is. Uh, um, a Reaper, for the audience, is a demon that is summoned to protect um, protect crops in the scarecrow fashion. That thing, when the sun sets, will animate and shamble around the village to kill, murder, eat, fuck, what anything that could possibly be misconstrued as as a threat in those fields. As long as that reaper is there and a blood sacrifice is left for it, the reaper will take care of the community. It In a lot of mortal communities, they are known as evil spirits, but amongst the unseelie, they are as harmless as kittens, so long as you leave the proper sacrifice at the right time and mind your manners. uh, in the previous chapter of the Reaper saga, uh, Oron, when he was known as Shihan, was bidden company with one such and haunted by one for some time.
yes, I was about to say that Robert Kerr was definitely haunted by one.
Mhm.
He tormented my dreams for a while. Yeah, he'll sit there, and as he sees this thing he'll stop at the edge of the field as Okion goes about his business, and he'll stare at this thing, and he'll sort of mutter under his breath. And when he comes close, may actually understand, catch a few of the words that about never again, and that you know, don't be sneaking into my dreams again, you wretched thing, and things like that.
Yeah, after having traveled with Arwan for a little while, I've kind of grown a little bit accustomed to his borderline ramblings, insane ramblings and gibberings. So I it doesn't really necessarily phase me at the moment, but I do sort of notice it. It seems to be a little bit louder than normal. Um, I approach the field and walk inside, crossing the threshold. And I approach that, this shrine of the field, this reaper that is hoisted there, hanging there, looming there, and I approach it just very almost casually, well trained, perhaps not super, not bored, definitely not bored, but definitely with lot of experience. As I walk, seemingly unfazed by the grisly presence of this thing, and I approach its base and I look up at it and I inspect it and I see that it's in decent quality, decent shape, and I expect that, as this community seems to be doing quite well. They seem to be doing the proper sacrifices and know how to do it. So
There's
yeah,
there's
go
a,
ahead.
there's an offering bowl at the feet of this thing.
Oh, perfect. And I look down at that thing. Yep, yeah.
It's got a ruby in there. It's a rather nicely sized ruby, almost like a $50 size, pretty damn big.
Mm.
It's filled with rainwater, what you would it looks to me like a small bird, like a raven or a pheasant's skull, um, a rooster's foot, and half of a tortoise shell, a painted turtle, map turtle's shell, is in there.
Mm. So I look down at the offering bowl. Pleased that it's there. Pleased that it is filled and it has been tended to. And I take out that copper knife and I slit my palm, and let some of that blood drip down. That old scar, that heavily scarred left palm that has done this many times, and the build up and the calluses and the scar tissue that is built up. I kind of grimace a little bit. The skin tough now from multiple sacrifices like these, as I then squeeze that and drip some of my own blood, my own life essence into this offering. And I stand and I observe this reaper, and then with that bloody hand, a bloody palm hand, grimacing slightly, I then lightly touch some of that blood onto the actual reaper itself. So I give some blood to the offering bowl, and upon its wooden stalk, or its form, as I make that connection. And then I look over the field and begin to sing a song of autumn. As I begin to then my intention to walk casually back, slowly, through the fields, the long way around, walk back to R1 where he's waiting, having done the sacrifice.
When you deposit your blood, at least onto the Reaper's form itself, it's probably a trick of the wind, but there's almost this rasping. Thank you.
Mm. Like
it almost invigorates you here.
My ear twitches and I feel kind of a little bit excited, but also a little bit. It still is strange. This is still a profession, a custom that I've had to adapt to as opposed to inherit. So this is still the skin of this order, of this practice is still new and still tender. But each time I do this ritual, it gets easier and less horrible, like it was the first times. I then return back to Arwan and I begin to take out a mushy paste of herbal medicinal nature, and I begin to rub my palm and begin to soothe it and make sure it doesn't get infected.
By that time, the warrior has returned, and he bids you three. Loom will see you. He would like for you to come to his home. I asked if he would come out, but no, he's too busy. Too busy working on a new thing. A new. He did not say. I didn't see. So,
Oran will
but,
nod and
you
look
know,
over to Kion and say, "Just okay with you? If so, I'll collect Summonak."
Absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Let us go meet him.
Okay. And Oran will make his way over to Summonak and collect him, let him know the situation, and meet together and head up, I suppose.
Not a fan of the Reapers, I take it.
No, I had a run in with one at one time that they like to play, but
Oh.
their games are not pleasant, nor are they welcomed. Especially
Oh, I
when
know
it's
that. Yeah, I've seen that. I give you like a knowing look. Like, oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, he shudders a bit. It says the tale that can tell you about those things and the unpleasantness they do, and the well, this one we're hunting once tried to um, control the Reaper King himself, use him as a weapon.
Not surprised. Why am I not surprised, I should say? Still, it's amazing what you find yourself getting used to.
It is, although that thing with there did bring back bad memories. It also brought back memories of um, in a way, a more pleasant time. In a way,
Those pleasant times will come back. It is only a stagnation. But stagnations do end this period of time, this endless autumn. Winter will come, and then after winter's cold and final embrace, then spring, and then summer, and the cycle will move on and on. That is the way of the world, and that shall return.
we can hope, and we can make it happen with that hope and with actions, of course.
I smile. We will make it so.
Oran nods, and a brief, rare smile crosses his lips.
Here we are.
as you enter Loom's front lawn here, his home is an autumn picturesque beauty. Every inch of this hovel, I call it a hovel. It's not. It's actually a house. It has a second floor and everything. The bastard probably has hardwood floors in theirs too, but it every inch is carved in motifs of the season. The artwork here, you do notice that he's clearly of the Sealy fashion. It's mostly spring and summer motifs, but with the changing leaves and the weathering of the wood and the light quality cast, the shadows that are caught in these, it almost makes it even more beautiful in autumn. Uh, there are pumpkins that are out in his front garden that are quite literally the envy of the village, and his windows are festooned with strings of garlic as well as flowering plants that you're not quite familiar with. He has in a front pot on what would be kind of like the front sitting area, like an entertaining area in one's front lawn. It's an earthen ewer that has a blue lotus growing out of it. That's in full bloom right now, which those of us who are knowledgeable of the mystical arts would we're immediately jealous and possibly thoughts of theft flash into our minds, but that is most uncouth and unclean. in this, and the warrior stands out, stands a foot ahead of you, a stride ahead of you, and in the heraldic fashion, he calls, "O Loom, we I come with these strange guests, and they offer you greeting." He waits a few moments, and an aged, wizened voice calls from the back of the house. He says, "I bid them greeting, come hither." And so the warrior just looks at you and he says, "All right, fairly well, gentlemen."
Thank you for the guiding. And Aron turns and comes hither.
You find yourself
We
in
follow.
a very rustically beautiful, basically an ancient wood shop, quite literally. He's got a primitive stone wheel that has a blade on it, that he's using currently to cut wood in a way. He's got chisels upon mallets among other things. Um, nails made of bronze, uh, drawers open of bronze, hardware, and you see an elder, clearly an elder. He has a strawberry blonde beard that goes to his waist, and he smiles to the three of you. "Three strange youths I find in my shop." Almost in a sing-song old man kind of voice, almost a little bit Tom Bombadil in a way. Um, he goes, "Come, sit by the fire, lads. What can old Loom, do for you?"
What kind of race is he again? Is he?
He's a Don Fairfolk.
Oh wow.
He is golden of skin and strawberry blonde of hair. He has silver eyes that he fixes you with a little bit. Maybe he stares a tad bit too long. Maybe this old man doesn't get a whole lot of visitors, but here you sit.
Mhm. Aram will take his, being the youngest, take his place next to the fire and make sure the fire itself is well fed with wood. If there's any nearby, he'll maybe put another.
He points to the pile of the cedars. They're the red ones.
He nods and chooses a cedar log and places it into the fire in the proper fashion so that it'll fire up to get a little more light, and then sits down and looks back at his companions.
Have you
I
eaten?
thank you. I thank you for your hospitality. May we introduce ourselves? This is, I gesture over to Somanak. This is Somanak the Great of the fire of the. And I look towards you like, what was your title again? You're muted. You're muted.
Put the
Your microphone. There we go.
I'm not going to get used to this thing.
Yeah, well, you're gonna have to, man. That's my spare
Priest-
headset.
Priest of the Silent Monolith, Warden of Winter.
Oh, he says,
I am
"Oh,
Ukyan."
winter." Oh, I see. These are the spring lands. Unfortunately, we haven't seen a winter in a very long time. And he just kind of like stares off, old man like. He's just a tad bit of senility in him, but he turns to Ukyan. My apologies. Continue.
Not at all. My name is Ukyan. I serve the Autumn Court. And this is Arwen, the Red Blade.
Red Blade. I see.
Yes, it was a company at one time of hunters that patrolled the edge of the great forest. I believe I am the last, or the last I know of.
I see.
Thank you so much for receiving us. As I take a seat, like moths to the flame, we have been attracted to this, to you for your fine work in carving and construction of the great shrine in the temple in the village square.
You are much too kind. I am simply a carver of wood. He looks at your breastplate.
It is a fine profession, and your skill is admirable.
He nods. How old is that breastplate?
Oh, about this one has been replaced recently, but I believe 350 cycles,
I
so
see.
not too old.
All right then.
I've had to replace the other one. It was torn asunder by a beast I had encountered in the swamp of Fenrir. It was a long time ago.
Do you have greaves, gauntlets, and pauldrons for such a thing, or is it just the breastplate there?
I gesture out, and I point towards my pack. I do have some greaves here, though. They could use some. Truthfully told, they could use some adjustment. They have started to chafe my skin. Some of the moisture has warped them slightly, I fear. I have not been able to tend to the oiling. I am ashamed to admit. It has been a long journey. We have crossed far across the land. We hail from the coast. It's being scorched by Atlantean armies. We have traveled far.
I've heard of these people. They're not a pleasant sea people, I'm told.
I believe Ron has encountered them, though. I personally have not seen them in the up close.
As warriors, they are fierce, and they have the belief that they are the mightiest upon the land. But beyond that, their craftsmen are great, and they do have some interesting ideas to offer.
So they are a people of interest.
They can be.
Perhaps they are the greatest warriors on the water, but I would think in my day they would not be so bold to boast such things on the land.
I think, in some cases they boast out of ignorance.
Ah, well, maybe the time will come when we will show them a damned good trashing then. Which at this point you're kind of you got to get this feeling like you're talking to like some old colonel who's seen some shit like I'm like, ooh, this guy's just the millennia just melted off of this guy, and he's a young warrior again.
During my times of travels, some time ago with an ogre by the name of Blogveer, we went among the Atlanteans. They had taken his mate. Well,
An
she wasn't.
ogre warrior.
Yes, he was
Oh,
rare.
those are indeed rare.
Well, he was even more rare in the fact that he followed the great goddess Carnage.
His eyes kind of, his old eyes kind of bug out. Like, wait, what?
He sort of, Oron sort of smiles at that. He says, "We were successful in freeing his love, and but during our time there among the Atlanteans, we did learn a few things that they they are themselves not uncivilized, just that they view civilization in a different way than we do." So
Do they build their homes out of stone with high walls?
they do.
I have heard of these things whispered in far off lands.
And
Are they mortal people or are they different?
I believe they're mortals. I
I
believe
see.
they have an interesting thing that they do within their towns. They create springs of warm and cold water and keep them in pools, and they wash themselves regularly, almost ritualistically, although it's not unpleasant.
Do they have a profession or a sorcery about them that requires them to be clean, as many of the nature cults as well as warden circles have?
I cannot speak to that. I did not see
Mm,
much of their mysticism while I was there.
I see. At this point, this old man just kind of turns his back on you. He goes, Continue. I am listening. I'm fetching some." He kind of shoots a kind of a suspicious look at Ukion as he turns back into his shop there.
Hmm. He catches me not looking at him. I'm just looking up at the ceiling, just imagining the stories of Blogview, which I've heard a little bit from Arwen and during our travels, and you just see like a thought bubble appear above my head of this like imagination of what Blogview looks like, and I just picture like literally a mammoth, a bipedal mammoth with a big club, and just like smashing things. And he's like the size of the height of a pine, so about 30 feet, 40 feet high.
Mhm.
Was
You
imagining
wouldn't
that.
be far wrong. You would
Yeah.
not be.
You listening to stories Aron tells of him. Yes, he did appear, in at least in the stories, to be extremely tall and did wield what seemed to be the trunk of a tree as a weapon, very effectively at that. Until he gained a very large sword that he wielded just as effectively. But yes, he'll go ahead and spin the tale of the travel down to the coast, where they encountered this city that the Atlanteans had made, and the wonders he saw within, and the fact that even though these people were, well, they were quite civilized, they were still people. And he learned that they were, at first he thought they were some kind of sea devils, but then he sort of learned that they're just mortal men. They just know a few things. They seem to have a way with devices that others don't. A working of metals that it seems to be almost to the level of the goblins, but just not quite, but almost. But they're very inventive people. So, and then their odd culture, of course.
Mm. I'm just listening to the story again and just enjoying it. I'm also just inspecting the fine wood of flooring here, which is exceedingly rare, especially in the villages. So I'm admiring that as well. And then I look up towards our host.
Loom returns with a pair of highly wrought um, and highly decorative wooden uh, gauntlets, and he drops them onto a kind of like a stool, a bench next to Ukian, and he goes, "Put these on. I want to see." He takes up your wrist and he kind of like squeezes your forearm like that muscle thing. Oh, you have enough meat for these, yeah. And he returns into his shop. The craftsmanship in these gauntlets are it astounds you.
Yeah, yeah.
There is there's no bark on them, but they're stained, and they're stained in a way that you can't tell what that color is. If it's red, or if it's brown, or if it's green. Maybe it's all three at the same time, a trick of the eye, but it's almost in a kind of like a camouflage and or like gilly pattern there. Um,
Incredible. I look at it and I kind of smile and laugh as he fits it, or inspects my forearm to see how it fits. I crack a smile and I look over towards Solmanak and sort of like grin a little bit, thinking again that even this grand master of carpentry is now bestowing tributes and gifts upon us due to his reputation of his that precedes him everywhere we go. So I logged that away in my mind that yes, no doubt everywhere this man goes, they offer tribute and gifts. Yeah, I look at this and I say, oh, surely like this is incredible work.
he returns with a matching pair of greaves that'll actually come up a few inches above above your kneecap there, which in a crouch position you'd be very well protected there.
Hmm.
That these, however, are carved with some runes, nature wild magic runes that that you're not quite familiar with, but you're aware that they are of the wild form
Hmm.
of magic. The gauntlets, however, have troll runes in them. He goes. He brings back these greaves, these boots for you. He goes, the warrior that I had created these for was slain during the Goblin Wars some time past, and you seem a similar cut to him. I would be pleased if they could fight on with you wearing them.
You honor me with these gifts, truly. Is there anything that I can do to recompensate you for this? This is exquisite work. I have an eye for this, and I know its worth. This is immaculate.
Just to farewell wherever you go, and to continue to serve Autumn in the best of your capacity. He goes and finds his what we would consider like the grandpa chair. He goes, sits down with his and
I will do so.
you have not come just to visit and to receive gifts from old Loom. What have you come for?
I look over towards Salmanac.
Well, we were originally here just to rest and pass through, but my companions were, well, Ukian at least here, was enamored by the craftsmanship that he found here.
Yes, and we heard that you are a long-standing member of this place and perhaps can aid us in our search. In truth, we are looking for a being known as Tezek, who we believe has crossed through this region in the past chains, we believe. We seek this one.
He knits his eyebrows and say, "What business do you have with Tezek?"
You know of him.
I'm not protecting him. Don't misunderstand my old bones. He doesn't have many visitors, and no one goes looking for him.
He may be able to help me with some research I am doing, which in
Oh,
turn will help me. It will help me to help others in such a
oh.
way.
Well, Tezek has many materials and of that fashion. He lives downriver from here in a crag. His hut is well, he comes to me every so often when his front door needs to be repaired and to resupply in the village. But no, he just,
He's a local here.
of course, well,
Well, he lives on the outskirts of the village. Then
he, yes, he is uh he is an interesting fellow. He lives amongst us. He pays respects in our rituals. He pays respects to the shrine. But he is strange. He finds himself in the company of dark entities that he sometimes has congress with, sometimes he does not. Uh, some of the locals call him a magician, some of them call him a devil. Uh, Most commonly, and my favorite is witch. Uh, he has familiars all about this fiefdom that ferret news back to him.
He's well known in the outlying villages, and the peasants there seek not to utter his word, not to utter his name, nor give any knowledge of his whereabouts. It has been difficult for us to find him, I suppose. Is this one dangerous? Should we be wary?
That depends on if you are a goblin or a thieving mortal, or possibly even an Atlantean despoiler trying to pillage their way across the land for supremacy. He does. He does.
I look a bit baffled at that. I just like, of course we're not. I mean, well, look at us. Like what?
He does worship the Reaper King after a fashion. You will you will see when you meet him. You will see.
Oh, I see.
That one actually causes Aron's eyes to sort of. He's sort of been looking at the fire, just sort of listening. But when he hears Reaper King, he worships Reaper King in some way. That makes him a little bit uncomfortable.
Yup.
I nod my hand in understanding.
He does not have a good view of the world outside the Fey lands and anything that would despoil fair folk way of life. But he does cavort with unsavory things. I think that is what makes his reputation more unwholesome to the common folk.
I really appreciate your work, your words, and for aiding us in our search. Since you know him, do you know when or how would it be appropriate for us to make audience with him? Should we approach, or is there a particular time in which it's more appropriate?
Oh no, just show up. He's a brigand.
Just show up.
He's a brigand. He does not.
He's a brigand.
Of course, he doesn't need an appointment. He doesn't need a herald. He doesn't need any of these things. He's a thieving rat bastard that creates love filters and poisons for young women who have been slighted, and young women who don't want to become pregnant.
I'll grab a hold of my forehead and rub my head a little bit. Ah, I see. This starts to make sense as I once again inwardly curse. Like once again, I am associating myself with brigands and accursed magicians and sorcerers. And what what is this? What is this journey that I found myself on? Still, I smile. Our thanks. And is there anything we can do for you? Is there a word, or perhaps any way that we could repay some of the kindness that you've shown us?
When you've concluded your business with Tazek, why don't you come back and we'll have song and poems, and we'll spend an evening if you are not bidden elsewhere in a timely fashion, or possibly at your journey's end return, and we can make merry then. I am not for this world much longer, and I think I should find myself to the grove soon.
I understand. But on on behalf of us all and our people, I honor and thank you for your coming sacrifice. It is a good thing, a kind thing, a righteous thing. I will definitely return, and we shall sing songs and reminisce.
Of course. With that, he stands, gives you three a brief bow, goes, "Be on your way. You guys you have plenty of time in this world. Make the most of it as you can."
Shihan stands and gives the elder a bit of a bow and says, "Thank you for sharing your wisdom. May the grove receive you, and you rest well when you go."
Salmonak will stand and bow and give him the greetings / farewell of the silent monolith prayer stuff. So
I will step forward and clasp his hand, much in the fashion that I did earlier in the session with Oran, and bid him a slightly informal but a very kind farewell. And I'll say, "I will see you again soon." I smile.
See to it that you do.
I will. And then I leave.
As you put your presence upon the road, given directions from Old Loom to find the lair of Tizek, we will have closing soliloquies here. We will start with Oran as he's bringing up the rear.
So Aron, as he leaves this beautiful abode that he's been gracing, he thinks about what this fellow said concerning Tizek, the fact that he's a brigand, the fact that he's a ne'er-do-well, and other more colorful epithets that he gave him. He sort of casually checks the fletching on his arrows. He'll pause for a moment to string his bow, which he normally carries unstrung, of course, because it may actually be needed. And then he'll check the fact that his sword is the travel wrappings have been loosened so that they can be drawn quickly if need be. Just the usual kind of precautions he would do going into this thing. And he's thinking to himself, it's been a while since he's traveled with his own kind. And
how does that feel?
Though he felt uncomfortable at first, he is starting to feel a bit, well, first off, the language that I'm sure they're speaking Feywise together. At first came as a bit of it was a bit rusty, but he, the flow of it has become more comfortable and more natural the longer he's spoken it. He does feel more at home. But at the same time, he knows these two aren't typical of his kind, of the Don Fairfolk. Ukian, though, he has a lot of the same mannerisms and such of the highborns that he had dealt with before. The fact that he is of the Autumn Court gives him a slightly different perspective. He reminds him more of the Fae that he interacted with in the Pike Lord's court, being of the Unseelie. And Summonak has seen some things. The darkness in him reflects in many ways the darkness in Auron's own heart. And though that brings up bad memories, it also brings up the good memories and the stories that of his travels before, and the fact that he's actually able to tell them to people that might understand things from his perspective a bit is making him feel a little more in his own skin. But still, he's worried about going into this introduction with this so-called brigand. So he is making sure that his arms are ready and that his friends' backs are watched, and that hopefully they are able to get something good out of this if there is problems.
And that we shall go to Salmonak.
Salmonak is, and even with reconvening with society, he is still very much on partial autopilot. He is still very much paranoid. Um, and while he may be sleeping through the night, it is not as fitful as he would like. As pretty much every night, I would assume nightmares are still plaguing him. Morpheus is still torturing him, so to speak, with his memories. I don't know how long it's going to be before he reaches some sort of breakthrough and those get better. I mean, it might be a chain from now. It might be a cycle from now. We don't know. I don't know. Got to see how that plays out. Besides that, he is happy, at least in the fact that they have some headway on where they're going. They have a direction to go to. And he's hoping that what his acolyte had found out will actually come to fruition, and they can take this knowledge back, get it spread throughout, and help both the war effort and people in general. And then after that, they could try to go after the Undying One with full force and hopefully put an end to this be damned event going on.
Beautifully said. And then we look into the mind of Ukian.
As we do, hear his words echo throughout his mind, his thoughts, as we walk down the trail, looking across this afternoon landscape and the village and the fortified palisade walls before us, and the leaves that will not fall, the autumn forest ever stuck in limbo, the harvest extended past its time. We hear the words of Lucian say, stagnation. This time has been frozen. The seasons has been frozen. Stagnation. It's everywhere. Even among those of my companions here. A stagnation leading to rot, to withering. Oh, how I have long journeyed with these ones here with me, these companions, these great warriors and magicians, these dawn folk of power, no doubt. See how they carry themselves, but they are twisted by dark things, by shadows. They whisper and gibber. They are sick. This land is sick. A rot, a withering is spreading. All due to stagnation. The seasons must move, and I must be the hand which moves it. I have seen the price of stagnation firsthand, what has happened to my father, and the cost and the price for ending it. I have ended the stagnation of my father, and he has moved on. I hope. Thus, I must continue my work and end this. Find this undying blight upon this world, this thing which refuses to die, to rightfully move on. I will liberate this world from this presence, from the presence of stagnation. I have been long burdened by this. I will find you. I will find it. I will find the crown, and through it I will learn what has happened. I must. That's it.
And with that, we will pull back. The camera will pull back farther until we find ourselves in a kaleidoscopic, fall-colored leaf and branch paradise. We pull back farther. We see the canopy of these autumn trees, the shocks of green from the evergreens, the firs. We pull back farther. We fly over the Great Divide Mountains farther out into the outer world. We find ourselves on a cold, windy, dark, rocky shore. There's no sand on this beach. There's just water whipped dark stones, almost in a Baltic fashion. We pull ourselves back into a small section of the forest, a nightmarish portion of the war of this world, a temperate rainforest far abroad from here. And the darkness of this rainforest is shattered by a blood-curdling scream in a Fey tongue, and it is followed by the cackling of even more alien tongues. We see then in a clearing a skeleton clad in burial rags and shrouds. Its golden crown of horns stands there gaunt before a fairy tree with blue lights in its leaves and in chains as hot as the forge itself around the wrists and ankles of these native Fey peoples. We see these red devils, these men and women that we've been hunting in this strange red and ebon armor that glitters in the dying moonlight. The undead primordial known as Endukaga, the Undying, cackles in a voice from beyond the grave. He goes, "Now, bear witness to a different kind of sorcery." And with a word of power, he bends and breaks these Fey captives in these chains that are searing their flesh, and he pulls in their light into a light, a sphere of energy that waits in his skeletal hand, and he then, with a different word of power, he raises a stone pillar from the ground, and he lashes this tree in those dark metal chains. Using the power of these Fey spirits, he enslaves another tree. And he says, "Two down." And with that, the stage curtains will close, and we will be back for the next session, session 2 of Crown of Autumn. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you then.
Thank you. Awesome.